Chapter 1871, Cannon Fodder, 1, I've met him once. Among the many masters of the top families, he's very famous. He's also a righteous person, so his reputation is very good. Ji Woo explained in a soft voice. However, he could not understand why the young master of the Yu family had a grudge against Zhou Kun when he saw how furious he was. Ah! He remembered now. He remembered that there was once a rumor that said that the fiancé of the Yu family's young master had been snatched away. However, when they heard this news at that time, most of them laughed it off because they did not believe the authenticity of this rumor at all. One must know that the Yu family's young master could also be considered as a pampered child of the heavens and a genius blessed by the heavens. The number of women who liked him was as many as the carps in the river. If those women could get involved with the Yu family's young master, it would be good enough if they did not pester him tightly. Would they be snatched away by others? But now, could it be that the news was true? Furthermore, the person who snatched the fiancé of the young master of the Yu family was actually Zhou Kun. At the thought of this, his expression turned strange and he frowned. He sighed in his heart and thought, this Zhou Kun is too bold. He dares to snatch anyone's woman. However, a woman who could become the fiancé of the Yu family's young master would probably have a good family background and even good qualifications. Would such a woman like her fancy Zhou Kun? If that was the case, he had to admit that there were many women in the world who liked strong tastes. Just as Ji Woo's thoughts were running wild, the young master of the Yu family dashed towards Zhou Kun like an arrow. Then, they heard the sound of a fist being punched out of thin air, followed by Zhou Kun's pig-like howl. "Oh Woo! Help me! Murder!" Zhou Kun shouted as he dodged. However, as a divine king, the young master of the Yu family was one of the most powerful among the divine kings. How could he possibly let a god-tier master escape from his fist? In that case, wouldn't he be laughed at to death by others? Moreover, when Lin Ruoxue and the others heard Zhou Kun's cry for help, no one wanted to step forward to help. They could only watch helplessly as the furious young master of the Yu family violently attacked Zhou Kun. Oh! No one knew when it had started, but using one's fist to beat someone up had actually become the most fashionable way to vent one's anger. Thus, many young people in the immortal realm would now choose this method to deal with their enemies. Of course, the prerequisite was that the strength of the one beating the person had to be above that of the one being beaten up. Otherwise, wouldn't it become a huge joke? Watching the young master of the Yu family's smooth and powerful punch, Ji Yun and the other two immediately felt extremely satisfied. If they had not made an agreement with Zhou Kun beforehand, they would have stepped forward and beaten him up. Compared to their restraint, the three little foxes were more direct. Seeing that Zhou Kun was being beaten up, the three little fellows actually gloated and supported him. Of course. They were cheering for the Yu family young master who was beating someone up. Good luck. Beat him up. Beat him up. Baby shouted. Beat up this beast. The Mei said very elegantly. My claws are also itching, what should I do? He had a pained expression on his face, but he was also eager to try. Hearing the words of the three little foxes, Ji Yun and the other two couldn't help but feel their foreheads fill with black lines. Were they helping an outsider? Although Zhou Kun wasn't considered one of their own, he knew them first after all. Who knew that the three little beasts would actually cheer for an outsider now? Sigh. Poor Zhou Kun, he was clearly a fox. Ji Yun and the other two were limping while the three precious little foxes looked at each other. Immediately after, the three little foxes rushed into the battle between the Yu family's young master and Zhou Kun like three bolts of lightning. It shouldn't be considered a battle. To be more precise, it was a violent beating. At this moment, the young master of the Yu family, who was punching Zhou Kun like rain, caught a glimpse of three different colored lightning bolts from the corner of his eye and became alert. However, he was shocked to discover that the three lights were not coming for him. More importantly, with the addition of the three of them, the young master of the Yu family had no place to be a hero. He was a little dumbfounded. What was going on? The young master of the Yu family had no choice but to stop punching Zhou Kun. Zhou Kun's howls were even more unpleasant than before. Everything happened too quickly, and it was somewhat beyond his expectations. Moreover, he seemed to have heard someone cheering for him earlier. This made him feel even more incredulous. The young master of the Yu family was dumbfounded as he watched the black, purple, and white shadows dance up and down, accompanied by a cold glint. He was already at a loss for words. Moreover, looking at Zhou Kun's situation, sigh. It was really a tragic sight. Now that he thought about it, he had been merciful before. At the very least, it could not be compared to Zhou Kun's current appearance. After the three precious little beasts had their fun clawing, they quickly retreated just like before, leaving the empty spot to the Yu family young master. The young master of the Yu family heard the voice beside his ear, "You can continue." She then took a look at Zhou Kun, who was lying on the ground in a semi-conscious state and was covered in wounds. She thought to herself, this fellow is already in such a terrible state. How am I supposed to continue? If they continued fighting, Zhou Kun would probably die, right? Although he was a little annoyed with Zhou Kun, it was not to the extent of taking that fellow's life. At the thought of this, the young master of the Yu family turned around and looked at Leng Ruoxue and the rest. He revealed an apologetic smile and said, Yu Chen, sorry for being impolite just now. It's okay, we don't mind. Leng Ruoxue replied with a faint smile. As long as the person who came did not put Zhou Kun's debt on them, they would not care how the other party treated Zhou Kun. Looking at Leng Ruoxue who was speaking, Yu Chen's face revealed a stunned expression. However, he was well educated and quickly returned to normal. He smiled at Leng Ruoxue and the others, how may I address the few of you? Although he didn't know why these people were with Zhou Kun, they didn't seem to be the same as Zhou Kun in terms of appearance and temperament. At the thought of this, he couldn't help but doubt the words of the person who had told him about Zhou Kun. That person said that Zhou Kun had a despicable helper and told him to be careful. However, when he was beating Zhou Kun up just now, Zhou Kun's so-called helpers did not help him at all. No, there were people who made a move, but they were not helping Zhou Kun. Yu Chen looked at the three little beasts in Leng Ruoxue's arms and thought, they must be the ones who attacked just now. What a fast speed. What a cute little fox. Yes. Although these three little foxes seemed a little violent, their tiny appearance in Leng Ruoxue's arms at this moment was really adorable. No matter how one looked at them, they were adorable. Especially the three little beasts' watery, very innocent big eyes, which made them look even more innocent and pure. However, Yu Chen had seen their violent appearance before, so he naturally did not think that they were that simple. Beasts that were too simple-minded would not live long, and so would humans. Chapter 1872, Chapter 1872 Cannon Fodder, 2, Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue was the first to reply. Ji Yun. Ji Tao. Ji Wu. Ji Yun and the other two said in unison. So it's Miss Leng and the Ji brothers, it's an honor to meet you. Yu Shu cupped her hands and said. After hearing that Ji Yun and the other two were from the Ji family, he was even more certain that these people could not be Zhou Kun's friends. There must have been an error in the previous information, or that person had a grudge against these people, which was why he deliberately told him the wrong information. Fortunately, he didn't attack these people. Otherwise, he would have fallen into someone else's trap. He didn't want to be used for nothing. Thinking of this, he suddenly felt lucky. The facts had proven that he was also lucky. At least he did not act like Lu Sen and try to kill Leng Ruoxue and the rest. If not for this, Lu Sen and the young man would not have had such an ambiguous tragedy. After a few people made a simple introduction, Ji Yun invited Yu Chen to sit with them. Then, he looked at Yu Chen in a gossipy manner, as if he wanted to say something but stopped. When Yu Chen saw Ji Yun's expression, he knew what he wanted to ask. He smiled faintly and said, Are you guys very curious about what kind of enmity I have with Zhou Kun? When Ji Yun heard this, he nodded his head vigorously. Although Lin Ruoxue and the rest did not seem as impatient as Ji Yun, they still looked at him with curiosity. It was obvious that they wanted to know as well. Ha ha ha. You should have heard about my fiancé being robbed, right? Yu Chen asked with a smile. The feud between him and Zhou Kun was not a secret in the eyes of many families. However, when he saw the curiosity on their faces, he suddenly felt in a good mood and wanted to tell them what had happened. After all, rumors were just rumors, and they had spread to so many people. No one knew how the rumors would turn out after they spread. Therefore, he felt that he needed to clarify things. Moreover, this was the first time in many years that he wanted to tell the truth to an outsider. Who asked these people to look like innocent little bunnies? This pleased him to a large extent. Yes. The three of them nodded. She was indeed snatched away by Zhou Kun. Yu Chen continued, his expression unreadable. The four of them and the three gossipy little foxes all stared at Yu Chen, wanting to hear what he was going to say next, but who knew that Yu Chen didn't say anything for a long time. That's it? Ji Yun couldn't help but ask. Ha ha ha. Of course, it's not over. Looking at their depressed expressions, Yu Chen laughed happily. In fact, he didn't say anything because he was waiting for them to take the initiative to ask. They were simply too adorable. Ah. Then you can continue. Ji Yun was somewhat impatient, the fire of gossip burning in his chest. It seems that the young master of the Ji family is still an impatient person. Yu Shu teased in a good mood. How can I not be anxious? You don't know how bored I've been during this period of time. It's not easy for me to have a topic to talk about, so how could I let it go so easily? Ji Yun spoke the truth. He didn't feel that there was anything wrong with his words, let alone feel embarrassed. Ha ha ha. Actually, it's a long story and can't be explained in a few sentences. Yu Chen whetted everyone's appetite again. Then, make it short. Ji Yun was frantic. I originally wanted to brew it well. Yu Chen pretended to be aggrieved. However, after receiving the unfriendly gazes of those people, he still continued to speak honestly. My fiancée is the eldest daughter of the Sun family, Sun Kaifeng. You guys should have heard of her, right? Yu Chen asked. Yes, I've heard of it. Ji Wu nodded. Sun Kaifeng was the most outstanding young lady of the Sun family. Not only was she beautiful, but her aptitude was also not bad. She was just a little arrogant and liked to look at people through the cracks of the door. Basically, other than the young masters of the various families, no one else could enter her eyes. However, this was the first time they had heard that Sun Kaifeng was Yu Chen's fiancée. More importantly, the relationship between the Sun family and the Yu family was not considered good, just like the Ji family and the Zhou family. From the looks of it, there must have been some inside story behind the engagement between the two of them. However, after finding out that Yu Chen's fiancé was Sun Kaifeng, they were even more unable to believe that Zhou Kun could hook up with Sun Kaifeng, the proud phoenix who had her eyes on the top of her head. Therefore, they also began to doubt the authenticity of the rumors. However, Yu Chen had actually beaten Zhou Kun up just now, which made them even more curious. My marriage with Sun Kaifeng was a farce. You should know that our families are like fire and water, so it's impossible for me to marry her. More importantly, I'm not interested in her. However, after she saw me, she kept chasing me, so I could only tell the outside world that I was in seclusion and stayed in the clan's forbidden area. The members of the Yu family would never let her enter the forbidden area to look for me. She deliberately created this scandal that everyone knew about to lure me out, but I didn't fall for it at all. I even took the opportunity to ask the ancestor to come forward and cancel this ridiculous engagement. Regarding this matter, I was just pushing the boat along with the current. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to get rid of her now. After Sun Kaifeng created this farce, she was grounded by the Sun family's ancestor. However, she was not affected much in this storm, and the matter was suppressed by the Sun family in time. Therefore, not many people know the truth, and not many people know that she is my fiancée. However, it was also because of this that Zhou Kun and my names were linked together, and we became even more famous. Not long after the storm appeared, for quite some time, everyone looked at me with eyes full of sympathy and pity. Of course, there were also sneers. That's also the main reason why I beat Zhou Kun up. If he wasn't so stupid, how could he have been used by others? He even caused me to be pitted or laughed at. But at the same time, I have to thank him. If it wasn't for his spirit of sacrifice, I wouldn't have been able to get rid of Sun Kaifeng, this self-righteous woman. Yuchen couldn't help but sigh. However, Zhou Kun didn't seem to have suffered any losses. At least, he had gotten what he wanted. Ah! After hearing Yu Chen's words, Lin Ruoxue and the others all sympathized with Zhou Kun. This fellow had completely become the cannon fodder for the battle between the fiancée and her husband. Not only did he have to bear the reputation of seducing other people's fiancée, but he also had to be beaten up by other people's fiancée. What was this? I'm very curious. Since the Yu family and the Sun family are like fire and water, how did you and Sun Kaifeng get engaged? This shouldn't be the case. Then, Ji Yun asked with a puzzled expression. At this moment, he was like a curious child with a strong desire for knowledge. This is all the work of our ancestors. Yu Chen said helplessly. When he saw Lin Ruoxue and the rest's please continue expression, he could only continue. Our family didn't like the Sun family, but the Sun family's old ancestor was always causing trouble for our family, so he had been sparing no effort to marry the Sun family's young lady into the Yu family. Later on, the Sun family's old ancestor cheated and our family's old ancestor lost the bet, and I also had this ridiculous engagement. However, fortunately, it was cancelled later on. Otherwise, I'm afraid that our Yu family would never have a peaceful day. When he said this, Yu Chen still had lingering fear in his heart. Chapter 1873, Cannon Fodder, 3, The Sun family's ancestors' way of thinking is really different. Lin Ruoxue was in disbelief. Normally, families that were incompatible like fire and water would rarely have marriage alliances. However, there were also those who married their own daughters with a certain purpose. However, women who married into their families would definitely not be doted on in their families. After all, anything could happen in an enemy family. Yet, the Sun family wanted to marry their most outstanding eldest young lady into their family. What kind of mentality was this? She could not understand. Yup. That old man is a madman, and the Sun family is also affected by him. They are all crazy and abnormal. Yu Chen said with a headache. The Sun family is indeed paranoid in a certain aspect. Moreover, based on my understanding of the Sun family, they wouldn't easily agree to cancel the engagement, right? Ji Wu asked indifferently. At first, they refused to agree. However, later on, I accidentally got hold of evidence of Sun Kaifeng and Zhou Kun's sexual intercourse. They couldn't reject me even if they wanted to. If they refused to agree, I could just reveal the evidence to the public. Anyway, I've already embarrassed myself enough, so I don't care if I embarrass myself further. However, Sun Kaifeng is a woman. If others find out that she's so indecent, would any of the top families dare to marry her? Yu Chen said proudly. You're ruthless. But I like it. Hee hee. I didn't expect Sun Kaifeng to be so casual. To think that she always looks like she's out of reach. I didn't expect Zhou Kun to be in a relationship with her. Ji Yun was left speechless. This woman was truly too terrifying. In order to provoke her fiancé, she would actually get together with another man. If she dared to do this, was there anything she wouldn't dare to do? Zhou Kun isn't the only man she has. This should be related to the cultivation technique she's cultivating. Yu Chen thought for a moment and revealed another big secret. Arg! Could it be that she had cultivated a cultivation technique related to men? This is crazy. When Ji Yun and the other two heard this, they were extremely shocked. Only Lin Ruoxue was confused. Are you guys talking about the dual cultivation technique? Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. Not really. There are very few proper dual cultivation techniques, and they're basically cultivated by both husband and wife to benefit from it together. Sun Caifeng's technique, on the other hand, only benefits herself. For the man she's in love with, it has more disadvantages than benefits, so it can only be considered a low-grade dual cultivation technique. Yu Qin explained. This was something he had found out in private after he and Sun Caifeng were engaged. Didn't Zhou Kun, a man who was used by her, notice this? A few drops of cold sweat dripped from Leng Ruoxue's forehead as she said that. She couldn't tell if Zhou Kun had taken advantage of her or suffered a huge loss. However, from a man's point of view, he had still taken advantage of her, right? After all, wasn't there a saying that even if you die under a peony flower, you'll still be a romantic ghost? For the sake of beauty, a lecherous person like Zhou Kun would probably do anything despite knowing that there was danger. Originally, other than Sun Caifeng, only I knew about this. Of course, you all know about it now. Sun Caifeng had even kept this matter from the Sun family. However, he was also a little curious as to where Sun Caifeng had gotten her hands on the cultivation technique. Logically speaking, such an evil thing should have been destroyed by the Divine Master's estate long ago. However, not only did Sun Caifeng cultivate it, but she seemed to have achieved some small success. Clearly, she had been cultivating for quite some time. Actually, I'm telling you all this because I hope that when you see Sun Caifeng in the future, you'll be more careful and not fall for her tricks. After all, her charm is very powerful. If she's deliberately trying to seduce you, you might fall for it without any mental preparation. Once you're charmed by her, the consequences will be very serious. Yu Qin said worriedly. He had a good impression of the Ji family, so he naturally didn't want them to fall into Sun Caifeng's trap without knowing. Although they might not have the chance to meet Sun Caifeng, it was always good to be on guard. Thank you for your reminder, brother Yu. We will keep it in mind. Ji Wu said gratefully. His tone of voice was much more intimate, and he directly called Yu Shu his brother. Ha ha ha. Since you call me brother, I'll call you little brothers. Yu Qin said happily. His personality was just like that. If he liked someone, he would do anything. If he didn't like someone, even if the other party was obedient in front of him, he wouldn't like them. His way of doing things was definitely inherited from his family. It's our honor that Brother Yu is willing to call us little brothers. You should know that Brother Yu has always been one of our idols. Ji Wu complimented him. Yu Qin, on the other hand, felt a rare shyness. Although he had heard a lot of compliments, they were sincere. He couldn't resist it, so his face turned slightly red. By the way, Brother Ji and Sister Ruoxue, I was able to find Zhou Kun this time because someone told me that they had seen him here. That person also told me that Zhou Kun has a few despicable helpers and asked me to be careful. Are you guys talking about you? Then, Yu Qin changed the topic and asked with a face full of curiosity. He automatically upgraded Leng Ruoxue to Sister Ruoxue. If it was two men who told you this, then they were talking about us. Leng Ruoxue had consciously ignored the word younger sister as she replied helplessly. But, I don't think you guys look like Zhou Kun's helpers. Yu Qin said, feeling a little puzzled. Originally, he did not intend to come and find trouble with Zhou Kun so soon. After all, Zhou Kun was also a victim in the incident back then. Although he was completely to blame for being used by others, it was precisely because of this idiot that he successfully cancelled his engagement with Sun Caifeng. Therefore, in a certain way, he had to thank Zhou Kun. However, at the same time, Zhou Kun had also caused him to become a laughing stock in the divine realm. Therefore, there were still some debts to be settled between the two of them, and it was precisely because of this that he often played the role of a victim and came to find trouble with Zhou Kun from time to time. Otherwise, wouldn't the people of the divine realm think that he was easy to bully? We're not. Leng Ruoxue and the rest laughed helplessly before they told Yu Qin about what had happened. After Yu Qin heard it, he actually laughed out loud and even laughed so exaggeratedly that he cried. You guys are really bad. How did you come up with this? Yuchen looked at Leng Ruoxue and the three little foxes and said happily. Now, he found the three little foxes even more pleasing to the eye. As expected, she was unrivaled and adorable. She's so cute even when she's up to no good. Ah. This has nothing to do with us. It was Zhou Kun who did it. Being stared at by Yu Shu's sparkling eyes, Bao Bei was embarrassed. Yes, it has nothing to do with you. Only Zhou Kun can think of such an evil thing. Yu Shu agreed with Baby and even pushed all the blame onto Zhou Kun. Anyway, Zhou Kun was already in quite a lot of trouble, so it didn't matter if he was the scapegoat again. At this moment, fortunately, Zhou Kun, who was covered in injuries, was in a half-awake state. Therefore, he did not hear the conversation between Leng Ruoxue and the others and Yu Chen. Otherwise, he would definitely be depressed and cry out loudly that he was innocent. Why do you want me to be the scapegoat? However, he was definitely going to take the blame. Right. He's a big bad guy, and he even fantasizes about my lovely master, You really are a toad. Baby said angrily. If it were not for the numerous injuries on Zhou Kun's body, it would have continued to scratch him. Yeah, he's just a toad lusting after swan meat. However, now that Zhou Kun's location has been exposed, there might be people who will rush over to take revenge on him. Therefore, I think we'd better leave this place as soon as possible. After all, many people like to vent their anger on others. Yu Chen reminded. How many people has Zhou Kun offended? After hearing Yu Chen's words, Leng Ruoxue's forehead was filled with black lines. There are many. As long as it's a woman with good looks, he'll hook up with them. It's best if the two of them hit it off immediately. Otherwise, he'll come up with all kinds of despicable ways to force others to submit. Think about it, how many people has he offended? Although he had never thought of killing Zhou Kun, he would be very happy to see Zhou Kun in trouble. However, if someone were to do what Lu Sen did previously and implicate Leng Ruoxue, Ji Yun, and the rest, it would not be worth it. Ah. Did he like to attract hatred so much? He's a weirdo with such a hobby. Yu Chen's words made Leng Ruoxue speechless. However, she glanced at Zhou Kun, who was lying on the ground like a dead dog not far away, and she felt a slight headache. How should he deal with this guy? Was she going to leave with him? Hee. Sister Ruoxue, leave Zhou Kun to me. I promise that no one will recognize him. Seeing Leng Ruoxue's dilemma, Yu Chen volunteered. After all, there would be no fun without Zhou Kun. Then, under the puzzled gazes of Leng Ruoxue and the others, he took out a healing pill and stuffed it into Zhou Kun's mouth. In the blink of an eye, Zhou Kun's injuries were mostly healed. The reason why he was not fully recovered was because the healing pill that Yu Chen took out was too ordinary. However, this was also Yu Chen's goal. After Zhou Kun sobered up a little, he was dragged behind a huge tree by Yu Chen before he could react completely. Chapter 1874, Zhou Kun's Spring, 1. When Leng Ruoxue and the rest saw this scene, their hearts unconsciously started to let their imagination run wild. This scene seemed familiar, and it was easy for people to make associations. Not long after Yu Chen and Zhou Kun hid behind the tree, they heard Zhou Kun's painful moans coming from behind the tree. His moans were intermittent, and sometimes he was even wailing. Leng Ruoxue and the others were all speechless when they heard it. Oh! Would it be what they were thinking? The young master of the Yu family doesn't seem like someone who has that kind of hobby. The few of them couldn't help but let their thoughts run wild. After a while, Yu Chen walked out from behind the tree alone. He even patted the dust off his clothes and walked to Leng Ruoxue and the others. It's done. Yu Shu said with a faint smile, his handsome face still full of pride. Eh. Leng Ruoxue and the rest looked at him curiously, but no one spoke. Zhou Kun. Why don't you come out and let little sister Ruoxue and the others see your new image? He knew that Leng Ruoxue and the others were curious, so he called out to Zhou Kun directly. However, seeing that Zhou Kun did not respond, he could not help but say angrily, "You're a man, why are you still so shy? I'll count to 3 and you'll get the hell out of here. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences." Upon hearing that, there was a flurry of activity behind the tall tree, followed by a few ping, 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 ping sounds. Then, Zhou Kun slowly moved out from behind the tree with his back facing the crowd. Looking at Zhou Kun's bashful appearance, Leng Ruoxue and the others were even more puzzled. What is going on? Was Zhou Kun feeling shy? Just as Leng Ruoxue and the others were secretly guessing, Zhou Kun had already slowly moved in front of them. However, he still chose to turn his back to everyone and the beasts. His trembling shoulders revealed his nervousness at the moment. The treasure couldn't stand his slow and coy appearance, so it directly jumped in front of him. With one look, it was shocked. "Arg! You. Who are you?" Baby stretched out its little paw and pointed at Zhou Kun in disbelief. Leng Ruoxue and the others were even more curious when they heard the baby's words. Can't Zhou Kun even recognize the baby? With a strong sense of curiosity, Leng Ruoxue and the others walked straight to Zhou Kun. It was Zhou Kun's fault for not turning around. However, after seeing Zhou Kun's current appearance, their reactions were similar to that of a treasure. Leng Ruoxue and the others all had their mouths half open as they stared at Zhou Kun, who looked terrified. At that moment, his entire face was swollen like a pig's head, and his original appearance could not be seen at all. His swollen eyelids were bulging, and his eyes were squeezed into a thin line. Not only that, but his eyes were also black and green, which looked extremely disharmonious. His lips were also swollen like sausages. However, after looking at Zhou Kun's mouth, they believed that they would not want to eat sausages for a short period of time, because Zhou Kun's sausage mouth was really too disgusting. After looking at Zhou Kun, Leng Ruoxue and the rest turned their attention to Yu Chen. "Brother Yu, is this person Zhou Kun?" Ji Yun could not help but ask. "Ha ha ha. How about the real deal? After I helped him change his appearance, you guys can't recognize him, right?" Yu Chen was very proud of himself when he said this, as if his face was saying, "Quickly praise me." These few words left Leng Ruoxue and the others speechless. "I can't recognize him, but how can he go on his way in his current state?" Ji Yun was a little worried. If others were to see them together with Zhou Kun in this state, they would probably be embarrassed, right? "Don't worry, I only hit his face. He's still healthy. It doesn't matter how far you go." Yu Chen promised. "Brother, yes, idea is great. I really want to know how you came up with this idea." At this moment, Ji Tao also said with a smile, "Hee hee." He was overjoyed to see Zhou Kun in such a state. He had allowed Zhou Kun to flaunt his prowess in front of them all the time, and now he was getting his retribution. "Hee hee. I only saw little sister Ruoxue's hesitation, so I suddenly thought of changing his image. This way, we can go on our journey together," Yu Chen said with a smile. If he left Zhou Kun alone, who would he fight with when he was bored? He couldn't help but think to himself. It turned out that he was treating Zhou Kun as a pastime. Change your image. Upon hearing this, cold sweat started to drip from Leng Ruoxue's forehead. Don't tell me that the young master of the Yu family doesn't know what a disguise pill is. In Leng Ruoxue's opinion, Yu Shu had clearly done it on purpose. She wanted to beat Zhou Kun up, but he still used her as an excuse. What kind of person was he? Leng Ruoxue complained as she looked at Yu Chen with resentment in her beautiful eyes. Seeing this, Yu Chen cleared his throat and turned his head away guiltily. Miss Leng, I'm in pain." All of a sudden, Zhou Kun opened his mouth. His voice was trembling, and his voice was a little unclear. "It's okay, just bear with it." Leng Ruoxue replied perfunctorily, but she couldn't help but feel disgusted. Why did he have to tell her about the pain? She wasn't a healing pill, but Yu Chen probably wouldn't let him take any healing pills, otherwise, that guy would have worked for nothing. Yu Chen's actions also involuntarily reminded Len Ruoxue of evildoer. In general, Yu Chen and evildoer were somewhat similar in some aspects. For example, when dealing with enemies, evildoer also liked to use this kind of method, and Yu Chen would not give up on his responsibility. However, if the demon were to find out that Zhou Kun had once challenged him, he was afraid that Zhou Kun would not end up well either. In fact, he would definitely end up in a worse state than he was now. Although she didn't know if she would encounter a demon here, she could already imagine the outcome that Zhou Kun would face. It would be his nightmare for the rest of his life. At the thought of this, Len Ruoxue's attitude towards Zhou Kun improved slightly. However, his tone was still lukewarm. Then, everyone ignored Zhou Kun's grimace and simply packed up their things before leaving. This time, they chose to walk in the opposite direction. After walking for 2 days, Len Ruoxue and the rest did not even see a single person. After finding a flat piece of land as their temporary camp, the group decided to have a good rest. As for Zhou Kun, after 2 days of rest, the swelling on his face had subsided a lot, and his original appearance could be vaguely seen. Therefore, as soon as they stopped moving forward, Yu Chen dragged Zhou Kun to a corner again. Then, Zhou Kun's painful howls rang in their ears. However, Len Ruoxue and the others were already used to it. After a while, Yu Chen came back first again. No one cared about Zhou Kun's outcome. Zhou Kun still did not appear even after Ji Yun and the other two had finished preparing dinner. After dinner, Zhou Kun was still nowhere to be seen. "Brother Yu, did you scare Zhou Kun away? What's going on?" Ji Yun asked curiously. "Brother Yu is really violent. He has been torturing Zhou Kun for the past 2 days. He won't dare to run. Otherwise, he'll regret it even more," Yu Chen said confidently. Then, he brought Ji Yun and the other two to the huge tree where he had beaten Zhou Kun up. He saw Zhou Kun curled up on the ground with his head lowered, shivering. When he felt that someone had arrived, he did not dare to raise his head. Instead, he trembled even more violently. Sob. He's an uncared for and unloved vulnerable group. Who can save him? He couldn't count on Ji Yun and the others. Chapter 1875, Zhou Kun's Spring, 2. Zhou Kun, what are you hiding here for? Do you know how worried we were about you? Seeing this, Ji Yun held back his laughter. It's cool here. Zhou Kun mumbled softly, still not daring to raise his head. Is it very cool here? Ji Yun raised his head and looked around. He did not feel that it was very cool here. Moreover, he did not want Zhou Kun to hide here. Therefore, after giving Ji Tao and Ji Wu a look, the three of them carried Zhou Kun and left the place. Release me. Let me go. What are you guys doing? Zhou Kun, who was forcefully dragged away, was so frightened that he hurriedly screamed loudly. Even Len Ruoxue, who had already entered the tent, was startled and came out. What are you guys doing? After taking a look at Zhou Kun, who was struggling desperately, Len Ruoxue turned her head and asked Ji Wu and Ji Tao, who were holding on to him. He wanted to hide behind the tree. We had no choice but to bring him here by force. Ji Tao quickly explained. Oh. Len Ruoxue nodded in understanding. At that moment, Zhou Kun saw Len Ruoxue and started shouting again, Miss Leng, help. They want to harm me. They're all bad people. Young Master Zhou, you must be mistaken. Why would they harm you? Upon hearing Zhou Kun's words, Len Ruoxue's face was filled with black lines. She thought to herself, it's only been a few days. Zhou Kun was tortured to the point of paranoia. It was quite pitiful. However, Len Ruoxue's thoughts were rather pitiful. She did not really pity Zhou Kun. She was just sighing casually. In fact, she was not very concerned about Zhou Kun's outcome. I'm not mistaken. They really want to harm me. Wu, As he spoke, Zhou Kun even started crying. His body, which was being held tightly by Ji Wu and Ji Tao, also fell involuntarily. How can you guys bully the few with your numbers? He's really too much. Suddenly, a voice filled with justice appeared out of thin air. Furthermore, from the voice, it seemed to be a woman. Then, the woman who spoke appeared in front of Leng Ruoxue and the others. The crowd looked at the woman who had appeared out of nowhere in surprise. When did this guy come? It was unbelievable that so many of them didn't notice it. This fact made the men feel embarrassed. However, this woman's appearance and voice clearly didn't match. Her voice sounded soft and weak, but her appearance was rough. To put it bluntly, she had the appearance of a man. The woman not far away had dark skin and ordinary looks. She was rather tall and burly, even more so than Zhou Kun. The woman's strength was also that of a god king. Upon seeing this, Leng Ruoxue could not help but frown. Another god king had actually come. It seemed like there were quite a number of participants in the god king's group. However, it was also fortunate that this nosy fellow was only a divine king. Otherwise, if it was a divine emperor or the like, it would be difficult for them to deal with them. The woman appeared in front of the crowd. She first sized up the crowd before finally fixing her gaze on Zhou Kun. Are they trying to kill you? Don't worry, I'm here, I won't let them have that chance. The woman said with a strong sense of justice. In her eyes, Zhou Kun, who was covered in injuries, was a pitiful victim, while Leng Ruoxue and the others were heinous villains. She had always been the embodiment of justice and naturally bore the responsibility of protecting the weak. Therefore, she could not help but take Zhou Kun under her wing. Really? Then you must protect me. Upon hearing the woman's words, Zhou Kun was so touched that he burst into tears. Hearing their conversation, Leng Ruoxue chuckled and interrupted, "You've misunderstood. We didn't want to kill him." "You didn't want to kill him? Who would believe that? If I didn't want to kill him, why would he be screaming so miserably?" The woman clearly didn't believe Leng Ruoxue's words. In fact, she even scoffed at them. Beautiful women were like poisonous scorpions. In the eyes of that woman, Leng Ruoxue was like the king of poisonous scorpions. This was because she had clearly heard that pitiful fellow begging Leng Ruoxue for help, but Leng Ruoxue was unmoved. A woman's heart was truly the most poisonous. "We're doing this for his own good," Ji Yun said. His words only served to further enrage the rough-looking woman. "For his own good? I'll beat you up like this and say it's for your own good, okay?" The woman questioned angrily, her bronzling-sized eyes burning with flames of anger. "I don't need to do this," Ji Yun said indifferently. He was speechless at this fellow who could not tell right from wrong and thought that he was the embodiment of justice. He also did not have the patience to continue explaining. Does he really need to do this? The more the woman spoke, the angrier she got. She didn't even know why she was so angry. He does need it because he has too many enemies here. Ji Tao could not help but ask. His enemy? Aren't you guys the ones? The woman shouted. You're wrong. Compared to his other enemies, we're nothing. Ji Tao was speechless. This woman's imagination was too rich. So you're really his enemies? The woman responded quickly. Yes and no. At this moment, Ji Wu spoke. What is it and what is it not? Please speak like a human. The woman lost her patience. She was tired of listening to other people's genteel words. Could it be that I spoke the language of the beasts? Or do you not understand human language? Ji Wu said with a light smile. Of course I can understand human language, so you must be speaking the language of beasts. The woman said matter-of-factly. Ji Wu fell silent in response to her theory. Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but feel helpless when she saw that Ji Yun and the other two had been defeated by the woman's endless pestering. Although she was also speechless, she felt that it was better to make things clear to this woman, in case this woman lost her sense of justice. At the thought of this, Len Ruoxue took a deep breath and said, "Miss, we are indeed helping him. The reason why we are doing this is because he has too many enemies here, and every one of them can't wait to take his little life. In desperation, we can only change his appearance so that he won't be recognized. Do you understand what I'm saying?" "I don't understand." "No matter how many enemies he has, you don't have to beat him up like this, right? Don't you know that there's a pill called the appearance-changing pill in this world?" The woman said. Although she was a little rash, she was not stupid. The things she should know were no less than others, so no one could fool her. "This is the elite gathering, do you really carry a disguise pill with you?" Len Ruoxue asked with a smile. The woman was at a loss for words. She would not bring the disguise pill for such an important competition. However, after hearing Len Ruoxue's words, she still felt that something was amiss. That's right. They were talking about how they shouldn't have beaten him up like this, not about whether they had brought the disguise pill or not. Fuck. He was almost tricked by this beautiful scorpion. This woman was too cunning. Chapter 1876, Zhou Kun's Spring, 3, the woman flew into a rage out of humiliation. Following that, she started arguing with Len Ruoxue, "Even if you don't have the disguise pill, you shouldn't have beaten him up so badly, right? Look at him now, he doesn't even look like a human. He said that it's because we don't have the disguise pill and he has too many fierce enemies. We had no choice but to use this plan." Len Ruoxue couldn't help but roll her eyes. She realized that it was very tiring to talk to this woman. She was always beating around the bush. "Then it's wrong to beat people up," the woman said stubbornly. She knew that she couldn't win against this beautiful scorpion, so she had no choice but to insist that she shouldn't beat people up. "Do you want us to just watch him get killed?" Len Ruoxue's eyes widened, her beautiful face filled with disbelief. "Of course not. If he really has enemies coming to seek revenge, you can also help him," the woman said matter-of-factly. She had already forgotten that she had just treated Len Ruoxue and the others as Zhou Kun's enemies. "We're only priests, and he has many enemies. Do you think we can defeat his enemies?" Len Ruoxue continued to guide him patiently. The woman was at a loss for words. She couldn't help but think, does that guy who was beaten up so badly that you can't even see his human form really have that many enemies? Why does he have so many enemies? Unconsciously, the woman asked what she was thinking. "He seduced too many women, took too many women by force, and broke up countless marriages. Do you think he has a lot of enemies?" Len Ruoxue asked indifferently. "Really?" The woman couldn't believe it. A dark light flashed in the depths of her eyes. Len Ruoxue nodded. The woman remained silent for a long time. "Wow! You are so great. So powerful. How did you do it?" After an unknown period of time, just when Len Ruoxue and the rest thought that the lady had figured it out, they suddenly heard a voice filled with joy. Instantly, cold sweat started to drip down from their foreheads. What was going on? Were they outdated or the world was progressing too fast? They clearly felt that they couldn't keep up with this woman's thinking. After the woman finished speaking, she rushed to Zhou Kun excitedly and looked at him with admiration. Her extremely eager gaze made Zhou Kun's heart thump. Plop! He jumped wildly. Zhou Kun tried his best to open his swollen eyes, which were only left with a slit. He looked at the woman in front of him who was looking at him with admiration in a daze, and he was overwhelmed with emotions. Although this woman was unremarkable and her body was stronger than his, it was rare to meet a woman who understood him so much. He was really excited. He was so excited that he didn't say a word. Seeing that Zhou Kun didn't respond to her, the woman didn't care at all. Instead, she continued to speak non-stop. "You know what? I also want to seduce many men, occupy many men, break up countless lovers, and build my own harem. I want to make all the men in the world grovel at my feet and do whatever I want. What do you think of my idea? Isn't that great?" Although it was a question, she didn't ask Zhou Kun for an answer. Instead, she said, but, after living for almost 100 years, I have not even touched a man's hand. Woo, my harem. I wonder when it'll be completed. The woman's expression was extremely sad when she said this. When Lin Ruoxue and the others heard her bold words, they were all dumbfounded and speechless. They originally thought that Zhou Kun was already a rare specimen, but they did not expect that this woman who came out of nowhere was even rarer. After all, there were not many women who had such ambitions. However, they could also imagine the reason for her failure. Which man would be able to accept a woman who was stronger than him? More importantly, this woman's way of thinking was very different from others. She also thought that she was the representative of justice. In their eyes, this kind of woman was clearly a sign of mental disorder. It was estimated that any man who was slightly normal would not be interested in her. However, the woman seemed to have found her savior. Seeing that she was staring at Zhou Kun so fervently, they even suspected that she would eat Zhou Kun up in her excitement. Oh! If there was really such a possibility, they would give Zhou Kun their blessings. Ji Yun and the others mused. Please teach me. Teach me how to seduce men. While Lin Ruoxue and the rest were having wild thoughts, the woman lifted Zhou Kun up excitedly and shook his weak body continuously. Zhou Kun, who was dizzy from the shaking, felt nauseated and hurriedly stopped her. Don't shake me, I'm going to vomit. Arg! Are you going to vomit? Then what should we do? As soon as the woman heard that Zhou Kun was about to vomit, she immediately became anxious and used her eyes to look around for an object that could contain his vomit. However, she found nothing. In the end, the woman tore off most of her lapels and raised them in front of Zhou Kun. Come, stop vomiting here. Don't vomit anywhere else. Otherwise, the Divine Master's estate will punish you. The woman was very clear about this. Looking at the woman's exposed black, strong, and thick waist, Zhou Kun forcibly suppressed the feeling of wanting to vomit. He couldn't help but wipe the sweat on his forehead and said, I'm fine. Put me down. Are you sure you're really fine? You look so pale. The woman said with a worried look on her face. When Ji Yun and the others heard her words, they could not help but start panting. How could Zhou Kun's face be pale? His face was clearly still swollen, with bruises and red patches. She could even tell that he was pale, so what was with her eyes? Could it be that her eyesight was so amazing that she could see the essence of Zhou Kun's pig-like face? I'm really fine. Zhou Kun sobbed a little and said, Boo, I'm a man. Now, he was being held up high by a woman. If this were to spread, how could he survive in the divine realm in the future? At this time, he had completely forgotten that the representatives of the various families outside could see the situation in the special space. Therefore, they had long since seen through his ugly state. Oh! The woman responded, then turned to Ji Yun. Pretty boy, go and get me a cushion. When Ji Yun and the others heard this, they looked at each other. No one moved, because they didn't think that the pretty boy this woman was talking about was them. Seeing that Ji Yun didn't move, the woman was enraged. That pretty boy in black. What if you didn't hear what I said? The woman repeated. Her face was like a volcano erupting, spitting out huge flames of anger. The one in black. Only Ji Yun was dressed in black. Now, they didn't have to guess. You're calling me a pretty boy? Ji Yun looked at the burly woman in disbelief. This fellow's eyesight really wasn't that good. If it wasn't you, who else could it be? Hurry up and get me a cushion. It has to be soft, the woman said. Why should I go? I'm not your servant. Ji Yun was somewhat displeased. In his entire life, not even his family's ancestors had ordered him to do this. What right did an outsider have? Moreover, even if they wanted to order him around, he had to be willing. Otherwise, there was no need to talk. I'll let you do what you want. Are you going or not? If you don't go, I'll beat you up. The woman clenched her fist and threatened. "I'm not going," Ji-yun said with certainty. Then, he ran to Len Ruoxu's side and said with an aggrieved expression, "Ruoxue, this woman is actually threatening me." Len Ruoxue helplessly gave Ji-yun a consoling look. Then, she looked at the woman curiously and asked, "What do you need a cushion for?" "Of course I'm lying down for my idol. Can't you see that he's so badly injured?" The woman said it very righteously, while Len Ruoxue and the others were at a loss whether to laugh or cry. How was Zhou Kun seriously injured? They were just some superficial wounds. Did she have to be so nervous? "Don't talk nonsense, quickly go and find me a cushion," the woman continued. "No, I didn't. Where can I find a cushion here?" Len Ruoxue couldn't help but roll her eyes at the woman's wild imagination. "Then what do we do?" The woman was a little depressed. She didn't want her idol to lie on the cold ground. The woman hesitated for a long time before an idea suddenly came to her. She sat down on the ground and pulled Zhou Kun into her arms. The force was so great that Zhou Kun was almost strangled to death. Cough cough. Zhou Kun's face turned purple and he could not help but cough. "Arg! An idol. What's wrong? Where do you feel uncomfortable?" When the woman heard the coughing, she immediately panicked. "His name is Zhou Kun." At this moment, Yuqin could not help but tell the woman Zhou Kun's name. "Oh. Thanks a lot." Although the woman was a little out of line in certain aspects, she was still very polite. After thanking him, she patted Zhou Kun's back gently with her huge palm leaf fan-like palm to help him breathe. She kept calling out in a low voice, "Little Kunkin. Don't scare me." Chapter 1877, Mouth-to-Mouth Resuscitation, 1. Upon hearing that, Zhou Kun could not even catch his breath. His eyes rolled back and he fainted completely. Upon seeing that, the woman became even more panicked. "Little Kunkin. Wake up. What's wrong with you?" "Wah," the woman cried out loud and couldn't help but wipe her snot and tears on Zhou Kun's clothes. When Ji-yun and the others saw this, they were even more dumbstruck. This was truly a forthright and unbothered woman. Seeing the woman's performance, for a moment, no one dared to speak. The atmosphere also became oppressive. Suddenly, the entire camp echoed with the woman's cries, which were more unpleasant than the howls of wolves. Zhou Kun did not know how long the woman had been crying, but her cries gradually became softer and softer until they disappeared. However, Zhou Kun was still unconscious. "Little Kun is still unconscious. Help me think of a way to wake him up." At this moment, the woman thought of Ji-yun and the others, and spoke in a half-commanding tone. "Still in a coma? Was it that serious?" He had only been unconscious for a while. The woman's words made Ji-yun and the others feel even more exaggerated. Moreover, in their hearts, they deeply felt that the reason why Zhou Kun had fainted was because of this woman. It could also be said that he had fainted because he was frightened by her. In that case, should they help wake Zhou Kun up? Ji-yun and the others looked at each other when they saw the strong woman's nervous face. Then, they all revealed a knowing smile and made a decision in unison. "Ai." This woman looked quite pitiful, so he had to help her. Ji Tao, Ji Wu, and Yuqin gave Ji-yun an encouraging look, and Ji-yun spoke on their behalf. "It's not difficult to wake him up, it just depends on whether you're willing to do it," Ji-yun said hesitantly, pretending to be deep in thought. "You have a way? Then hurry up and tell me." The woman could tell the meaning behind Ji-yun's words and immediately asked anxiously. As for the true meaning behind Ji-yun's words, she completely ignored it. "I just said that it's not difficult to wake him up. I just don't know if you're willing to do it." Ji-yun couldn't help but repeat himself. He truly doubted if this woman understood his words. "I understand. Tell me the method," the woman urged. "It's good that you understand," Ji-yun was relieved. Then, He said, the reason why your little Kun fainted was because he was too anxious. If you want to wake him up, the only way is to dispel the foul qi in his chest. Only then will he really wake up. Ji Yun's expression was extremely serious when he said that, and Ji Wu and the others almost believed him. However, it was indeed a good idea, but Zhou Kun would be the one suffering again. Then what should I do? The woman didn't quite understand what he meant. What did he mean by dispersing the foul air that had accumulated in little Kun's chest? How do we break them up? Hit him. Beat him up ruthlessly. Until he wakes up. Ji Yun saw that the woman didn't understand what he was saying, so he explained it in a more common way. Didn't you just beat him up? Why didn't you say so earlier? What's the point of all that nonsense? When the woman heard that the true method was so simple, she began to blame Ji Yun with some dissatisfaction. Ji Yun was furious when he heard that. However, seeing that Zhou Kun was about to be abused, he decided not to argue with this rude woman. Otherwise, it would lower his class. Although he said that he's going to beat someone up, he still needs to have some skills. Otherwise, if he's just beating him up, he might get even more injured. At this time, Yuchen couldn't help but remind him, but he was secretly laughing in his heart. Then tell me, how should I beat him to wake him up? The woman asked without shame. When you hit someone, you should hit the meaty parts of his body, such as his butt. However, your little Kun's chest is blocked, so you only need to hit 3 places on his body. Yuchen said with a smile. Which 3 places? When the woman heard this, she perked up and listened even more seriously. One is his face, one is his chest, and the other is naturally his butt. Hit each of these 3 places 100 times, and I promise he'll wake up alive and kicking. Yuchen promised. After listening to his words, Ji Yun and the other 2 deeply felt that they were too kind. Look, the truly ruthless person was here. Even if he were to hit only one spot, he would probably wake up after being hit 100 times, let alone 100 times in each of the 3 spots. Really? What if he doesn't wake up? The woman was still a little worried. It could also be said that she was too nervous about Zhou Kun. If he doesn't wake up, you can continue to hit him. Leng Ruoxue reminded him with a faint smile, but she couldn't help but mourn for Zhou Kun for 3 seconds in her heart. Poor fellow, it's really a bad time for him to faint. Great, he's going to be beaten awake again. Looking at the woman's iron palm, she wondered if Zhou Kun would be able to withstand it if she were to hit him hundreds of times. However, Leng Ruoxue's worries were clearly unnecessary. That was because the woman had already started fighting. She raised both her palms and attacked Zhou Kun's face, which was already swollen like a pig's head. Pa pa! In the blink of an eye, dozens of attacks had already been launched. Not only was the woman strong, but she was also fast. Hence, before Leng Ruoxue and the others could react, Zhou Kun had already finished hitting his face 100 times. Then, the woman launched an attack on Zhou Kun's chest. Si la. With a loud sound, Zhou Kun's tattered clothes were torn apart. Then, pa pa. The voice sounded again. Zhou Kun still showed no signs of waking up even after she had hit him 100 times on his chest. The woman immediately became anxious and hurriedly pulled down Zhou Kun's pants before continuing to smack him on his buttocks. In fact, how could Zhou Kun not wake up after being hit so many times? However, the speed at which the woman hit him was too fast. Hence, after Zhou Kun woke up from the pain, he was knocked unconscious by the woman before he could even speak. This cycle repeated itself, and it was not easy for Zhou Kun to really wake up. Leng Ruoxue and the rest were in awe of the latter's smooth and fluid movements. This was a real husband among women, more manly than men. Just as Leng Ruoxue and the others were sighing, Zhou Kun's buttocks were soon smacked 100 times. However, apart from being more seriously injured, he seemed to have stopped breathing, and his breathing became extremely weak. Seeing this, the woman began to cry again. Her cry gave Leng Ruoxue and the others a headache. This fellow was definitely comparable to Meng Jiang's aura of crying the Great Wall down. They wondered if she would flood this special space. If that were to happen, they didn't know if they would be implicated as well. Don't cry. After receiving the looks from Yu Chen and the others, Leng Ruoxue helplessly advised, sigh. Those cunning guys had actually given her the heavy responsibility of coaxing this woman. To be honest, she felt that she was completely incompetent because this woman didn't seem to like her very much. Chapter 1878, Mouth-to-Mouth Resuscitation, 2, I'll cry my own tears, you don't have to care. The woman cried as she wiped her tears and snot. The transparent silk thread was pulled out by a long length. Instantly, Leng Ruoxue and the rest felt nauseated. Is this still a woman? No wonder no man had taken a fancy to her until now. Ji Yun and the others secretly sighed in their hearts. When Leng Ruoxue heard the latter's words, she sighed helplessly and said, you can't solve the problem even if you keep crying. Why don't you try mouth-to-mouth resuscitation? What's mouth-to-mouth resuscitation? What's that? The woman asked in confusion. She had never heard of this term before. Oh. It's a first aid method. It's very simple, you just need to transfer air to your mouth. Leng Ruoxue explained simply. What? Mouth to mouth? How could this be? I'm not married yet. No. This was absolutely not allowed. I want to give my first kiss to my beloved. As the woman spoke, she became shy. However, with her flat face, this shyness seemed a little terrifying. You still want to get married? Hearing this, Ji Yun asked in surprise. Leng Ruoxue, on the other hand, kept her mouth shut. She couldn't communicate well with that woman, so she'd better leave it to Ji Yun. Of course I'm going to get married. Don't all women have to get married? The woman didn't quite understand Ji Yun's words and asked in confusion. Women should indeed marry, but you're not an ordinary woman. You're a great woman who's going to build a harem in the future. How can you be like an ordinary woman who's only satisfied with marrying the man you love? I feel that it's not worth it for you. No. You can't let yourself suffer like this. Ji Yun's face was filled with righteous indignation. That's true. But no man likes me. I haven't even held a man's hand before. The woman said with a bitter expression. Men don't like you because they don't have good taste. Besides, you're the head of the family, so it's enough as long as you like them. All your men have to listen to you. If anyone doesn't listen, you'll punish them with the family law. In that case, they won't dare to resist. Ji Yun suggested. His idea made Leng Ruoxue and the others feel embarrassed. This Ji Yun clearly only wished for the world to be in chaos. What you said seems to make sense. Then what should I do? The woman asked in a silly manner. Her gaze towards Ji Yun had also become much gentler. Do you like him? Ji Yun pointed at Zhou Kun, who was in the woman's arms, and asked, pretending to be curious. Of course I do, he's my idol. I still want him to teach me how to chase a man. The woman said with a look of yearning. At the same time, she appeared to be in a state of confusion, as if her soul had left the world. Then you have to let him stay by your side. Let me tell you the truth, this guy's means of chasing women are unparalleled in the world. As long as it's a woman, there's no woman that he can't hook up with. If he is by your side to help you plan, then the day of your harem is not far away. Ji Yun said with a serious expression. Really? Then what should I do to keep him by my side? The woman didn't know what to do, so she continued to ask Ji Yun. That's easy, as long as he becomes one of your people, it will be fine. Let's start with mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. This is the best start, you have to work hard. Ji Yun clenched his fists and encouraged him. But I'm a little scared. The woman lowered her head in embarrassment. What are you afraid of? Be brave, bring out the courage you had when you first met us, close your eyes, and kiss us ruthlessly. Said Ji Yun, somewhat exasperated at his failure to live up to his expectations. Then what if he doesn't admit to what he did after I kissed him? The woman was still worried. After all, this was the first time she had intimate contact with a strange man. He dares to go back on his word. We have so many witnesses to testify for you. You're doing this to save him, so if he dares to not admit to his debt, well, announce to the world that he'll become a heartless man and an ungrateful villain that everyone in the divine world will shout at. At that time, let's see what he can do. Ji-yun said through gritted teeth. In truth, he really did think so. At the thought of Zhou Kun waking up and finding out that he had already, he felt extremely elated. Will this work? After the woman heard Ji-yun's words, she hesitated. I think it's feasible. Receiving Ji-yun's gaze, Yu-chin nodded and said. MMH. This plan will definitely work. Ji-woo and Ji-tao said while trying their best to hold back their laughter. They could already foresee Zhou Kun's tragic days in the future. Then you have to be my witness. I've made a huge sacrifice to save him. The woman warned before she bit him. Don't worry. We're all on your side. Ji-yun and the others promised in unison. After getting the assurance of Ji-yun and the others, the woman closed her eyes and bit Zhou Kun's sausage-like mouth in one go. He did not know how long had passed, but the woman had yet to finish eating. However, Zhou Kun slowly woke up. In fact, he was completely awakened by suffocation. At first, he was just so angry that he fainted, but his breathing was not affected. However, for some reason, he suddenly felt that he was going to suffocate to death, so he naturally woke up. However, the moment he woke up and saw a flat face in front of him, he almost jumped up in shock because the face was too close to him. However, at this time, his numb and swollen lips did not make him feel that he was being nibbled by someone. It was just that the distance between them was a little unbearable, and his heart was even more uneasy. Fuck. Why is this woman so heavy? I can't push her away no matter how hard I try. She was even on top of him. What? Was she on top of him? Zhou Kun was a little slow to react, but the weight on his body reminded him that the ugly woman was indeed on top of him. This fact gave him an inexplicable strength out of thin air. He wanted to push his palms hard, but he pressed them against two elastic giant peaks. He was stunned at once, and the woman, who was gnawing at them, also felt the movement of the person below her. She quickly raised her head and looked at Zhou Kun with a surprised look, exclaiming, Little Kun, you're really awake. That's great. It seems that mouth-to-mouth resuscitation is really useful. The woman cried tears of joy and was so happy that she was incoherent. Upon hearing the woman's words, Zhou Kun was stunned again and forgot to withdraw his hands for a moment. He said with a confused look, What mouth-to-mouth resuscitation? Hee. It's mouth-to-mouth. The woman explained shyly. She had already felt the pair of hands on her giant peak. However, she had long regarded Zhou Kun as her man, so she did not get angry. Chapter 1879, Mouth-to-Mouth Resuscitation, 3, Mouth. Mouth-to-mouth. Zhou Kun was shocked. Fuck. No wonder he felt that his breathing was not smooth. It turned out that he had been kissed by someone. No, he was kissed by a Sao Wu. This hateful guy, he had always been the one taking advantage of others. He didn't expect that he would be taken advantage of by a Sao today. How could he accept this fact? His heart was filled with grief and sorrow. He looked at Ji-yun and the others with eyes filled with flames of anger. As for Leng Ruoxue, his eyes were filled with grievance. Unfortunately, no matter how he reacted, Leng Ruoxue and the others ignored him. Seeing that Zhou Kun had woken up, Leng Ruoxue smiled and said to the woman, Now you don't have to worry, right? Yes. Thank you for helping me. The latter's gratitude was genuine and she found Leng Ruoxue much more pleasing to the eye now. Hee. It's nothing. Since your little Kun has woken up, I'll leave him to you. You have to treat him well. It's getting late, we should go back and rest. After Len Ruoshua finished speaking, she did not wait for the woman's reaction and brought baby, Mei, and Mo into her tent. After stirring things up for so long, this matter had finally come to a satisfactory end. She was very satisfied with this result. Not long after she returned to her tent, Ji Yun and the others also gave the woman some instructions before returning to their own residences. After Len Ruoshua and the rest went to rest, Zhou Kun and the woman were the only ones left in the large open space, except for the burning bonfire. They were staring at each other. Let me go. After a long while, Zhou Kun, who felt uncomfortable, struggled and thought, this ugly woman is so strong. He had used all his strength, but he couldn't push her away. This fact made him quite depressed. He was a man. You're injured. Be good and lie down. I'll take good care of you in the future. The woman patiently coaxed. Clearly, she took Ji Yun's words seriously. I don't need you to take care of me. Zhou Kun was furious. Fuck. What did this woman mean? Could it be that she would have to stay by his side in the future? No way. Only an absolute beauty could be by his side. This woman was not qualified. Little Kun, that's not up to you. I've already decided to have you in my harem. You're the first man I've taken a fancy to, and you'll be the boss of all men in the future. Are you happy? The woman said with a smile. With this smile, all the flesh on her face was squeezed together, making her look even uglier. In fact, the reason why she had made up her mind so quickly had a lot to do with the encouragement from Ji Yun and the others. More importantly, her mother had said that she should make a move when it was time to. If she hesitated, she would only lose the opportunity. Therefore, after making her decision, she had already regarded Zhou Kun as her man. As for whether Zhou Kun was willing to do so, it was not within her consideration. After all, she was a god king. Could it be that he was not worthy of a god-tier master? With that in mind, Zhou Kun's future was decided. Upon hearing the woman's words, Zhou Kun was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Fuck. Still happy? Could he be happy? He had always regarded women as playthings, but he didn't expect that he would be played by an ugly monster. How could he accept this? No. He couldn't just sit and wait for death. Moreover, he could not let this ugly woman keep him as her exclusive property. Otherwise, he would rather die than live. One should know that he felt like vomiting just by looking at this ugly woman. If he really became her man, he would die young. Unfortunately, things would not go as he wished. Just as he was thinking of a solution, he suddenly felt a cold sensation on his wrist. Seeing this, he couldn't help but lower his head and suddenly saw a golden chain on his wrist. Fuck. What was this? What was the meaning of this? Did they think he was a dog? Hee hee. Little Kunkin. This is the token of our love, the love chain. With this, we will never be apart. The woman smiled in a very wretched manner and showed Zhou Kun the chain. The chain seemed to be only about a meter in length, and one end was tied to Zhou Kun's wrist, while the other end was tied to the woman's wrist. Zhou Kun felt like killing himself. This. Was he really going to tie him up like a dog? Zhou Kun's face turned livid with anger, and his chest heaved up and down continuously. Damn it! Where did this woman come from? She was such a bully. Seeing that Zhou Kun was excited again, the woman was so nervous that she did not know what to do. Little Kunkin. What's wrong? Where are you feeling uncomfortable? The woman said worriedly. After saying that, she nibbled on the 2 sausages on Zhou Kun's face. It was the mouth-to-mouth resuscitation that had saved little Kunkin just now. Hence, she was sure that the mouth-to-mouth resuscitation was effective. As for Zhou Kun, he was pressed down by the sudden gravity and almost lost his breath and fainted again. However, he did not faint this time. Zhou Kun felt nauseated after being licked and gnawed by the woman without any skills. Moreover, the woman was using too much force and kept blowing into his mouth, causing him to feel a little pain. Hence, he was furious. He decided to teach this woman a good lesson on what kissing was. Unfortunately, he had forgotten that the patient was performing artificial respiration. In a fit of anger, Zhou Kun lost his rationality and pressed down on the woman's head, after which he turned the tables on her and kissed her ruthlessly. In an instant, they were filled with passion, and the flames were burning between the two of them. The woman, who was dizzy from Zhou Kun's kiss, was so excited that she grabbed Zhou Kun's tattered clothes tightly, only to hear a sigh la. With a loud sound, Zhou Kun's clothes were torn into pieces, and his body was exposed again. However, at this moment, the two of them had not realized this. The two of them were kissing and biting each other fiercely as if they were competing. In the tent, Baby was walking back and forth a little impatiently. From time to time, it would stick its little head out to take a look. When it saw the two of them burning with passion and unable to control themselves, its beautiful purple eyes flashed with a thought-provoking light. Then, it stretched out its furry little paws. Following that, Leng Ruoxue picked up the small and exquisite baby. "You little rascal, what are you up to again?" Leng Ruoxue said helplessly. "Hee hee. I just want to help that woman." Baby laughed evilly, not feeling guilty at all for being caught. "She doesn't need your help. She can handle Zhou Kun." Leng Ruoxue said in understanding. That woman was no ordinary person. She was definitely Zhou Kun's nemesis. All right then. Baby was a little disappointed. Since its cute master had said so, it shouldn't be a busybody. Be good. Go back to your space and sleep. Leng Ruoxue caressed her precious little head. With a thought, she brought them into the medium. The next day, when Leng Ruoxue came out of the tent with Baby, Mei, and Mo, the three little foxes, she was surprised to see Ji Yun and the rest who looked haggard. Ugh! What was going on? It had only been one night, how could they be so down and out? What's wrong with you guys? Are you under attack? Leng Ruoxue teased. It's good if we really encounter an enemy attack. AI. It was even worse than that. We didn't rest well yesterday. Look, I have dark circles under my eyes. Ji Yun exaggeratedly said with an aggrieved expression. Ah. What's wrong? Leng Ruoxue saw that Ji Yun was exaggerating and helplessly smiled. She had never heard of Shen Yi having dark circles the next day if he didn't sleep at night. Little sister Ruoxue, didn't you hear anything last night? Seeing Leng Ruoxue's face full of question marks, Yuchen couldn't help but ask. I didn't. Leng Ruoxue was very honest. She would not really be sleeping in the tent at night, so how could she have heard any movements? Furthermore, if anything had happened, Qing Ju would have warned her. However, Qing Ju did not say anything last night, which naturally meant that everything had been fine the entire night. Hence, she really could not guess what they had encountered. Ah. You're probably sleeping too deeply. Yuchen said with a face full of envy. Then can you send a representative to tell me what happened last night? Seeing that no one had explained the reason to her even after a long time, Leng Ruoxue's curiosity was piqued. Since you didn't hear it, then it's better not to know. Ji Yun hurriedly said. What's the reason? Leng Ruoxue was a little unhappy. What did he mean by better not to know? Didn't they know that their mysterious behavior had already aroused her curiosity? Ah. We don't know what to say. It's a little hard to say. Yuchen chimed in. Actually, he had taken into consideration that Leng Ruoxue was a girl. Hence, subconsciously, he treated Leng Ruoxue as a child. Naturally, it was not good for her to know about this. Hard to say. Could it be that something that shouldn't have happened between you two? Leng Ruoxue deliberately laughed evilly. Why is it us? It's obviously Zhou Kun. When Ji Tao heard this, he was so frightened that he quickly clarified himself to avoid any misunderstandings with Leng Ruoxue. However, this way, Leng Ruoxue would naturally know who the person involved was. Since it's Zhou Kun, why are you so embarrassed to say it? Leng Ruoxue was a little speechless. Following that, she could not help but ask, what's Zhou Kun up to again? Can't that guy just stop? He's been taken advantage of. Last night. He even fainted a few times. Ji Yun's cheeks reddened as he spoke in an embarrassed manner. Of course, this was only a guess based on the woman's scream, but it was still close to the truth. Who did you say fainted? You're the one who fainted. Without giving Leng Ruoxue a chance to express her thoughts, a furious roar suddenly sounded out of thin air. However, there was a slight tremble in the rage. The person who roared was Zhou Kun, who had just stepped out of the tent. Chapter 1880, The Consequences of the Scheme, 1. When Zhou Kun heard Ji Yun's words, he was furious and was about to rush over to reason with him. However, he had just taken 2 steps forward when he staggered and fell to the ground with a thud. Behind him, a woman's exclamation was heard. Aya! My little Kun. How could you be so careless? Didn't I tell you not to walk so fast because you're so weak? Upon hearing that voice, Ji Yun and the others laughed secretly in their hearts. When they saw Zhou Kun's extremely embarrassed appearance, they laughed even more happily in their hearts. He did not expect Zhou Kun to have such a day. Weak my ass. I'm very healthy. Although his body was a little weak, that was not the only reason why he had fallen. The main culprit that had caused him to fall was the chain on his hand. It was all because of that damn dog chain that he had made a fool of himself in front of everyone. Buxu? Then let's continue. I haven't had enough fun yet. The woman said in a carefree manner. Her words immediately frightened Zhou Kun, who was already pale and weak, and his face turned even uglier. Fuck. Still not satisfied? I'm almost squeezed dry. Upon hearing that, Zhou Kun couldn't help but feel indignant in his heart. When he saw Ji Yun and the others sneering at him with their heads lowered from the corner of his eye, the anger in his heart burst out. They bullied me. If you teach them a lesson, I'll let you continue. Zhou Kun suddenly pointed at Ji Yun and the others and said, Humph. He was going all out. Although he couldn't defeat Ji Yun and the others, he had his own helpers. We're bullying you. When have we ever bullied you? Upon hearing Zhou Kun's words, Ji Yun and the others were speechless. Isn't Zhou Kun too good at using others' power? They had just found a backer, and now they wanted to give them a show of force. Humph. What a vile person. You guys were talking bad about me just now. I heard everything. Zhou Kun roared angrily, his face flushed red, and his listless eyes were rapidly filled with blood. Fuck. This time, he had been thrown to his grandmother's house. He was extremely sad and angry. Sob. He had been raped by that ugly woman. This matter had already caused him to feel aggrieved. However, he had now been treated as a joke by Ji Yun and the others. Not only that, the entire divine realm was probably aware of this matter. How would he be able to survive among the women in the future? As the saying goes, a single misstep would result in eternal hatred. He especially hated himself now. Why did he teach that ugly woman to kiss for no reason? In the end, he had harmed himself. Thinking about it now, he felt disgusted. Moreover, that ugly woman had warned him to drive away all the women around him, not leaving a single one behind. Otherwise, she would kill those women. This was definitely a threat. In reality, the current him really didn't care about those women by his side. The person he cared about the most right now was Leng Ruoxue, the woman whom he had yet to get his hands on. It was a pity that with this ugly tigress by his side, he was afraid that he wouldn't have the chance to be together with Miss Leng in the future. No way. This was absolutely not allowed. He had to work hard to fight for it. Otherwise, he would not give up. After thinking about this, he, who was originally depressed, looked at Leng Ruoxue with a determined gaze. However, his body was too weak now, and the tigress beside him was too fierce. Hence, he had to be extremely careful. He must not let that ugly woman see through his thoughts. Zhou Kun, who had made up his mind, retracted his gaze and looked at the woman beside him fawningly. He then said affectionately, "Bao Bao, you have to help me." The woman's body immediately turned limp and soft when she heard the word leopard. She pulled Zhou Kun into her arms and patted his back with her large palm leaf fan-like palm. She said heroically, "Little Kun Kun, don't worry. You're already mine, so your business is naturally my business. I, Meng Bao, will never let anyone bully you." After he finished speaking, Meng Bao glared at Ji Yun and the others. "Leopard, leopard." Meng Bao. Ji Yun and the others ignored the woman's furious eyes. Their minds were filled with the love term and name they had just heard. This woman was called Meng Bao. Ji Yun and the others sized her up in disbelief. From the looks of it, her parents didn't even treat her as a girl. Why else would he give his daughter such a masculine name? Although this woman didn't look like a woman at all, her name was too. "Who is Meng Liang to you?" Suddenly, Yu Chen asked. Hearing this name, he thought of a family he knew, because the names of the descendants of that family were all named after animals. "My big brother. Do you know him?" Although Meng Bao was a little stunned by Chen's question, she still answered truthfully, considering that she had been well educated. "Yes, I'm friends with your big brother," Yu Shu said as he sized up Meng Bao thoughtfully. He did not expect that this person was actually Meng Liang's younger sister. However, if his memory was not wrong, Meng Liang had told him more than once that his younger sister was a rare and peerless beauty. She had a face that could captivate fish and wild geese, and a beauty that could outshine the moon and flowers. Not only that, Meng Liang would sometimes joke about letting him be the Meng family's son-in-law. Looking at Meng Bao, Yu Shu secretly shivered. Although he was not a person who judged people by their appearance, he could not afford to have such a wife. "Since you're my big brother's friends, I'll let you off for bullying little Kun Kun. If there's a next time, I'll beat you up regardless of whether you're my big brother's friends or not." After listening to Yu Chen's words, Meng Bao said magnanimously. When Ji Yun and the others heard this, they secretly pouted. They did not bully Zhou Kun, okay? They didn't need the leopard to show any mercy. With this, they felt like they owed the leopard a favor. It was an uncomfortable feeling. "Miss Meng, I think you've misunderstood. No one is bullying your little Kun Kun." At this moment, Leng Ruoxue said with a faint smile. Upon hearing Leng Ruoxue's voice, Meng Bao suddenly remembered that there was a woman here. "Little Kunkin is already one of my men," he warned angrily. "So, you have to stay away from him. Don't come within 3 meters of him. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Meng Bao's words caused Leng Ruoxue to be stunned. Immediately, her smile bloomed like 100 flowers, dazzling everyone's eyes. Following that, she sincerely guaranteed, "Don't worry, Miss Meng. I won't get within 3 meters of him, and I won't fight with you for him. I already have a fiancé. This is more like it." Meng Bao was very satisfied with Leng Ruoxue's tactfulness. However, Zhou Kun was not. Humph. That ugly freak actually dared to threaten Miss Leng, it was really preposterous. However, he was in a disadvantageous position now, so he could only sulk in his heart and did not dare to object. Thus, in order to vent his anger, he once again set his sights on Ji Yun and the others. "Bao Bao, how can you let them go so easily? You said you would teach them a lesson for me, how could you lie to me?" Zhou Kun said with tears in his aggrieved eyes. Chapter 1881, The Consequences of the Scheme, 2. As soon as Meng Bao saw Zhou Kun's expression, he immediately felt his heart ache and quickly coaxed him, "Little Kun Kun, don't cry. They're my big brother's friends, so well let them go this time. If there's a next time and they dare to bully you again, I definitely won't give big brother any face. Please understand." "You said it yourself," Zhou Kun blinked his thunderous eyes a few times and confirmed. However, he couldn't help but think to himself, wasn't it easy for the other party to find trouble with him? As long as he provoked them with a few words, he could label them as bullying him. He couldn't help but think to himself proudly. We, the Meng family, have always been a man of our words. Don't worry. I would lie to anyone but you. Meng Bao said very seriously. That's good. Bao, I'm tired. I'm going back to the tent to sleep for a while. After Zhou Kun finished speaking, he glanced at Leng Ruoxue affectionately from the corner of his eyes. He then turned around and walked into the tent without looking back, followed by Meng Bao. After a short while, a special sound rang out in the tent, as well as Zhou Kun's plea for mercy. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue and the rest could not help but look at each other. Why did these two people not take a look at where they were when they were doing such things? Besides, didn't he go through a whole night of trouble yesterday? Why did you come in the morning? Ai. He had great physical strength, and she wondered if Zhou Kun could withstand it. The few of them thought to themselves. Then, they finished their breakfast and sat together to discuss something. Brother Yu. Before I entered this place, I heard that the battle here would be very intense, but now that I've been here for more than half a month, I haven't met many people in total. How can I compete like this? What if I don't win a single match here? How will I be ranked? Leng Ruoxue was filled with question marks. The actual situation here was different from what her godfather had described. Hence, she had been harboring these questions in her heart for a long time. Ha ha ha. Little sister Ruoxue, why are you so anxious? We'll have to stay here for a month. Basically, during this month, only the last few days are when the battles are the most intense. Before that, everyone will think of ways to avoid meeting too many opponents and ensure that they can get a good ranking in the final stage. This is also a good way to preserve their strength. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's question, Yu Qin patiently explained. Ruoxue, didn't I tell you? As long as we find a place to hide, we might not even need to fight to get a place. Ji Yun pouted and said unhappily. This was because Ruoxue did not ask him this question. It can't be that everyone is hiding, right? Leng Ruoxue was speechless. Hee. It's not impossible. Ji Yun laughed smugly. Even if they aren't hiding, I'm afraid that many of the participants are looking for a place to recuperate. They won't take the initiative to attack now. After all, it's not the right time yet. Otherwise, it will affect the later matches. Yu Qin also said. In that case, even if we search the entire place, we won't be able to find many opponents. Leng Ruoxue asked, feeling a little depressed. You can't say that. There are still people who like to fight. However, this place is not small, so it's not easy to meet an opponent. I've been here for so many days, and besides Lu Sen, I've only met you guys. Yu Shu said with a faint smile. Let's continue our journey in a while. Leng Ruoxue thought for a moment before suggesting. She didn't want to stay in the same place all the time as it would be too passive. Moreover, the barrier between the groups no longer existed. She also wanted to see if she could find the demon, Lu Tao, Feng De, and the others. Yes, but what about Zhou Kun and Meng Bao? Do you want to travel with them? Yu Qin couldn't help but ask. In fact, it would be good if he could have a temporary ally here. Unfortunately, among those two guys, one was unreliable and the other was a waste. Therefore, he was a little conflicted. I don't care, it depends on what they think. Leng Ruoxue said disapprovingly. In her eyes, it made no difference whether the two of them were around or not. They could not affect her anyway. Moreover, with Meng Bao around, Zhou Kun would probably not dare to harass her anymore. This was a good thing for her. Which one of you will go and ask them later? Yu Qin swept a glance at Leng Ruoxue and the rest as he asked calmly. He had no intention of asking those two anyway. Leng Ruoxue and the others exchanged glances and fell silent. None of them wanted to ask. He didn't want to disturb the couple. I'll go ask. I'll go ask them. At this time, Baby volunteered to stretch out his claws, his little face full of excitement. Ah! Leng Ruoxiu's forehead was filled with black lines when she saw how enthusiastic Baby was. What was Baby planning to do this time? This little thing who only wished for the world to be in chaos. Baby, I'll leave this matter to you. Ji Yun hurriedly said as soon as he saw that the beast had taken the initiative to take over the matter. It was as if he was afraid that the beast would go back on its word or that its master would not allow it to go. "Mmh. Don't worry, I'll definitely get this done properly." Baby patted his chest and promised. After saying that, it bounced and ran to the outside of Zhou Kun's tent, waiting for the right time. However, after waiting for 2 days, the young couple did not come out of the tent. Suddenly, the baby wilted. Was its mission going to end in failure? Baby was very depressed. No. It would not allow its mission to fail. After making up his mind, Baby began to think of a good plan. How could he get the 2 people who had forgotten themselves out of the tent? This gave the beast a headache. After thinking about it for a day and a night, Baby asked Ling to help it hide on a dark and windy night. Taking advantage of the fact that there was no one around, it took the flame that it had gotten from a certain phoenix and old dragon and quietly came to the outside of Zhou Kun's tent. Its beautiful purple eyes looked around first, then it secretly put one of its small claws into the tent. After doing all this, Baby took small steps back to his own tent. Arg! Help me! It's on fire! Late at night, an earth-shaking cry suddenly woke up Ji Yun and the others from their dreams. When they heard the cry, they hurriedly ran out of the tent to take a look, only to see Zhou Kun's tent being burned to ashes in front of their eyes. Fortunately, Zhou Kun and Meng Bao were not in any serious danger, but they were obviously frightened and looked extremely embarrassed. What is this? How did it catch fire? Leng Ruoxiu also came out of the tent with her precious little beasts. She asked Zhou Kun in puzzlement when she saw his tent, which was in ruins and had already been burned to ashes. We don't know either, we were sleeping soundly. Meng Bao said fearfully. As long as she thought of the scorching flames, she would still have a lingering fear. Fortunately, they had run away quickly. Otherwise, they would have been burned to ashes with the tent. Chapter 1882, The Consequences of the Scheme, 3. The fire was so hot and the temperature was extremely high. He really didn't know what kind of flame it was. She had lived for so long, but she had never seen such a terrifying flame. Meng Bao's heart trembled whenever she thought of the terrifying flame just now. However, even if she cracked her head, she would not be able to guess what kind of flame it was. It was because there was more than one type of flame. The baby's original intention was to get the 2 of them out of the tent, so it did not intend to harm their lives. Therefore, the little flame it threw out was not big at all, at most a small spark. However, no matter how small the flame was, it belonged to the dragon and phoenix and was of extremely high quality. Otherwise, the tent would not have been set on fire. As for the person, the fire had been specially treated by its owner. Although it looked terrifying, it would not burn them. Unfortunately, Zhou Kun and Meng Bao were not aware of this, and the treasure would not take the initiative to tell them that it was the one who had set the fire, so it was not dangerous. Therefore, the 2 of them could only live with the shadow of the fire for the rest of their lives. What are your thoughts now? Leng Ruoxiu continued to ask. Seeing Zhou Kun and Meng Bao's miserable and pitiful appearance, she knew without a doubt that the culprit must be treasure. We don't know either. Zhou Kun and Meng Bao looked at each other and saw a trace of fear in each other's eyes. Are you planning to stay here and cuddle, or are you going to leave? Leng Ruoxiu couldn't help but roll her eyes and asked helplessly, sigh. It was just a little fire and it scared the 2 of them to this extent. To think that they were gods. He was too timid. We're preparing to leave. Leng Ruoxiu added. I'll go with you. Upon hearing that, Zhou Kun did not ask for Meng Bao's opinion. Instead, He said impatiently, "Boo-hoo. I don't want to be with this ugly tigress anymore. Otherwise, I'll lose my life sooner or later. Who do you want to go with?" Upon hearing this, Meng Bao pulled Zhou Kun into his arms and asked with a hostile expression and half-squinted eyes, as if she would teach him a lesson if he said anything wrong. Zhou Kun was so frightened that he immediately changed his words. "I'll go with you." "Of course, with you. What I mean is, well, travel with them." "Why do we have to travel with them? Can't the two of us go together? We can spend some time alone." Meng Bao laughed in a rather wretched manner. Upon hearing her words, Zhou Kun really wanted to roll his eyes and pass out. Fuck. Who would want to spend time with her alone? Hadn't he been tortured enough for the past few days? If it was really just the two of them, he would probably die of exhaustion before he could leave this place. Sob. This woman was too scary. At the thought of this, Zhou Kun's eyes began to wander around Ji Yun and the others. Doesn't this ugly monster want to build a harem? Then he would fulfill her wish. In this way, she would not pay much attention to him. With this thought in mind, he began to size up Ji Yun and the others even more impudently. Ji Yun and the others were covered in goosebumps from Zhou Kun's scheming gaze. They sensed that Zhou Kun seemed to be up to no good and immediately raised their vigilance. At this moment, Zhou Kun lowered his head and whispered to Meng Bao, "Bao Bao, what do you think of those men? Do you want to take them into your harem?" "You're saying," upon hearing Zhou Kun's words, Meng Bao could not help but look at Ji Yun and the others. At that moment, Ji Yun and the others became even more careful. Fuck. Although they didn't know what Zhou Kun was up to, they knew that he wouldn't do anything good. Unfortunately, the two of them were communicating through voice transmission, so they couldn't hear him even if they wanted to. They could not hear it, but Leng Ruoxue could. After sensing Zhou Kun's sneaky actions, Leng Ruoxue had already instructed Qing Ju to read their minds. However, the result made her a little speechless. She really did not know what Zhou Kun was thinking. Could it be that because he was in trouble, he was going to drag Ji Yun and the others down with him? However, judging from Meng Bao's words, he did not seem to be very interested in Ji Yun and the others. Otherwise, Zhou Kun would never have the chance to be the man beside them. Things were just as Leng Ruoxue had guessed. After hearing Zhou Kun's words, Meng Bao sized up Ji Yun and the others. Among these people, Ji Yun was the one she was most dissatisfied with. This was because Ji Yun looked too weak. She did not like men who could be blown away by the wind. More importantly, Ji Yun was timid and often cried. This was something she could not stand. Thus, she was the first to reject Ji Yun. Yu Qin. She didn't want to touch her brother's friend. Otherwise, her brother would be angry at her. Because Big Brother always said, Big Brother's friends should not be bullied. And she was very obedient to her big brother. As for the other two, no matter how she looked at them, she didn't think they were her type. He was too fair and his skin was too soft. She didn't feel the touch of such a man, so she directly crossed him out, which was also rejected by her. All in all, she still preferred men like Zhou Kun, who were tall, strong, and looked very durable. After all, when choosing a man, she had to choose one that she could use for a long time. Otherwise, if he chose someone who looked good but was useless, wouldn't he be the one regretting it? Therefore, a man's face had never been in her consideration when choosing a man. Therefore, she was not satisfied with all of them. In other words, Zhou Kun's plot had failed, and Ji Yun and the others were safe. After sensing the change in Meng Bao's gaze, Ji Yun and the others felt strangely at ease. Although Meng Bao's eyes were full of provocation and dissatisfaction, they didn't know why, but they still felt at ease. Later on, when Leng Ruoxue talked to them about this matter, they suddenly realized why Zhou Kun was sizing them up with a scheming gaze and why Meng Bao was dissatisfied with them. It turned out that Zhou Kun was trying to drag them into this. This fact made the few of them extremely furious, and it was also destined that Zhou Kun's days in the special space would not be peaceful. However, at this moment, Zhou Kun was still unaware that his unlucky days were yet to come. At this time, he was still trying to persuade Meng Bao to go with them. It was only after he made countless unfair conditions and satisfied Meng Bao that Meng Bao finally agreed to go with Leng Ruoxue and the others. However, before she left, she warned Zhou Kun to stay away from Leng Ruoxue. Otherwise, he would bear the consequences. Upon hearing those words, Zhou Kun had no choice but to calm down under Meng Bao's tyrannical abuse of power. However, he knew that his heart was with Leng Ruoxue. After they set off, Leng Ruoxue and the others walked in front while Meng Bao carried Zhou Kun in his arms like a princess. In her words, her little Kun was exhausted from the past few days, so he could not walk anymore. She could only carry him. In fact, even if Meng Bao did not explain himself, Leng Ruoxue and the others would not mind that Zhou Kun was being hugged by a woman. On the contrary, they were more than happy to watch a good show. Chapter 1883, Potential Rival in Love, 1. Just like that, Zhou Kun's face was flushed, and Meng Bao did not know if it was from embarrassment or anger. Moreover, he did not say a word along the way and always looked drowsy. Seeing this, Meng Bao's heart ached even more. AI. Little Kunkin had been exhausted recently because he had been so enthusiastic and brave these few nights that she almost couldn't handle it. Fortunately, she was physically stronger, so she had the strength to carry little Kun Kun with her during the day. Although she was tired, she felt happy when she thought of little Kunkin's fiery enthusiasm. All her fatigue was swept away. Along the way, Leng Ruoxue and the others hurried along during the day and looked for a place to set up camp at night. As for Zhou Kun and Meng Bao, they would be so eager to get into their tents at night. After dinner, Leng Ruoxue and the rest gathered around the fire and chatted as usual. A familiar sound rang in their ears. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue raised her hand and cast a few spells, creating a soundproof barrier to block the sound from the outside. These two people were too good at disturbing people. Ji Yun, how much did you drug Zhou Kun? Yu Chen glanced at Ji Yun and said in a speechless manner. However, what made him feel even more incredulous was that the medicine took effect at intervals. Basically, they were fine during the day, but when it was late at night, the two of them would lose control of themselves, especially Zhou Kun. Not much, about a month's worth. Ji Yun said disapprovingly after some thought. Hearing his words, Yu Chen couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat on his forehead. A month's amount is not much? Then how much would be considered a lot? However, Zhou Kun really deserved to die. He actually dared to have designs on them. If they did not teach him a lesson, he would definitely rebel. As if he thought of something, Yu Chen said, Ji Yun, there are still more than 10 days left before we leave this place. By then, we will definitely have a big fight with others. If Zhou Kun continues to be so weak, he will drag us down. In my opinion, why don't you give him the antidote for the time being? If he is still alive after we leave this place, I will support you even if you give him 100 years of the antidote, let alone a month. Yes, I know what I'm doing. I won't let him drag us down. Ji Yun promised. In fact, he wanted Zhou Kun to enjoy himself for a few more days before he would secretly feed him the antidote. That's good. Hearing Ji Yun's words, Yu Chen was relieved. The next day, when Leng Ruoxue and the others walked out of the tent, they were surprised to find that Zhou Kun was already waiting for them. Moreover, his complexion was obviously much better, at least not as pale as before. However, he and Meng Bao had been pulling and tugging at each other. He wondered what they were doing. What are you guys doing? Leng Ruoxue and the rest asked curiously. During this period of time, these two people had added a lot of after-meal topics for them, so they had to show some concern. Little Kunkin's body is too weak, but he won't let me carry him. Upon seeing Leng Ruoxue and the others, Meng Bao immediately complained. That aggrieved look, coupled with her tall and strong body, really made people feel strange no matter how they looked at it. Little Kun, how could you reject Baobao's good intentions? Ji Yun suppressed his laughter as he feigned being unable to bear it. I have my hands and feet, can't I walk on my own? Why are you letting someone else carry you? Zhou Kun roared angrily. As soon as he thought of that, the flames in his heart would burst out. It's true that you have arms and legs, but unfortunately, your body has been too weak recently. If it weren't for Leopard holding you, I'm afraid you would have fallen behind. So, you have to thank her for not abandoning you. You must know how to be grateful, and you will get your retribution for being ungrateful. Ji Yun said disapprovingly. Hearing his words, Meng Bao's expression became even more aggrieved. Little Kunkin isn't an ungrateful person. He's just too shy. Meng Bao spoke up for Zhou Kun. He's shy. Ha ha ha. In this world, anyone can be shy, but he isn't. When Ji Yun heard this, he couldn't help but laugh as if he had just heard a great joke. You don't understand him. In fact, little Kunkin is a very introverted child. Meng Bao said. Ah. Ji Yun looked at Meng Bao and then glanced at Zhou Kun. He felt nauseated. However, Zhou Kun vomited it out before he did. Little Kun, what's wrong? Why did you vomit? Upon seeing that, Meng Bao turned pale with fright and hurriedly rushed to Zhou Kun's side. He hugged him tightly in his arms and patted his back to comfort him. Cough cough. Zhou Kun coughed twice, and his face turned pale again. Damn it. This fellow's hand was so strong, he would be slapped by her for no reason. I'm fine, she said. Zhou Kun said after he calmed down. You said you were fine, but you vomited. Meng Bao growled nervously. I said I'm fine, so I'm fine. Zhou Kun said impatiently, but he couldn't help but think that it would be great if Leng Ruoxue was the one who cared so much about him. He had to admit that he was still daydreaming about something that would never come true. Bao Bao, don't worry. This is a normal reaction. I should congratulate you for becoming a mother soon. At this moment, Ji Yun interjected. When Leng Ruoxue and the others heard Ji Yun's words, black lines appeared on their foreheads. Does this fellow mean that Zhou Kun is pregnant? However, Zhou Kun obviously had not reacted yet. And this idea was really too different. The few of them muttered to themselves at the same time. However, in order to cooperate with Ji Yun, they all looked at Zhou Kun with burning eyes, which made Zhou Kun even more annoyed. Going to be a mother. Ji Yun's words made Meng Bao a little dumbfounded. This good news came too suddenly, and she was not mentally prepared for it. But your little Kun is too weak, so you have to take good care of him. After all, he's now a dual-bodied person. Ji Yun warned. This time, he was very straightforward, and Zhou Kun and Meng Bao both heard him clearly. Damn it. What did you just say? I dare you to say that again. Upon hearing Ji Yun's words, Zhou Kun was a little angry from embarrassment. Fuck. He was a man. That coward from the Ji family actually said that he was pregnant. Wasn't he deliberately trying to anger him to death? After all, it was a woman's business to have a baby, and he had no right to do so. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Congratulations, little Kun. You're pregnant. Ji Yun did not care about Zhou Kun's fierce look at all and congratulated him with a smile. Fuck. I'm a man. Zhou Kun gritted his teeth and said fiercely. I didn't say you're a woman. Ji Yun's smile was very annoying. That Ji Yun, how could little Kun have a child? Meng Bao also asked in confusion. She had originally thought that Ji Yun was talking about her. Only now did he know that the person Ji Yun said was going to give birth to a child was actually little Kun. This was simply impossible. Even if she didn't have any common sense, she knew that a woman gave birth to a baby, and men didn't have that function. Chapter 1884, Potential Rival in Love, 2, Hee. I'm just guessing based on his reaction. However, we're all cultivators, so we should be very clear about the abnormalities in our bodies. So, let him check it himself, won't we know if he has it or not? Ji-yun suggested. Humph. I'm going to make you give up on this idea right now. Ji-yun's suggestion was exactly what Jo-kun wanted. After he said that fiercely, he used his divine consciousness to explore Ji-yun's body and carefully examined it. How? How could this be possible? After checking Jo-kun's body, his face turned paler and paler. Upon seeing that, Meng Bao was frightened and shouted loudly, "Little Kunken. What's wrong with you? Don't scare me." However, Jo-kun only looked into his body and did not give Meng Bao any response. It could also be said that he was completely in a dazed state because he discovered that there seemed to be a life aura in his dantian that did not belong to him, but was closely connected to him. This fact made his heart sink involuntarily. Oh! How could this be? He even wanted to die. Little Kunken. Unwilling to give up, Meng Bao continued to call out and tugged Jo-kun's sleeve with all his might. Unfortunately, Jo-kun still did not respond and was immersed in his own world. Bao Bao, calm down. He should be fine. He just can't accept that he's going to have a baby. Ji-yun advised. Oh. Is he really fine? Meng Bao was still worried. He'll definitely be fine. Don't you worry. Ji-yun gave Meng Bao a consoling look and promised. That's good. Meng Bao was relieved for the time being. Besides, she had to digest this good news properly. She was actually going to be a mother, and the child would be born from the belly of her child's father. This was really amazing. She was so happy that she was too lazy to investigate why Jo-kun could give birth to a child. After all, this was the divine realm, and anything was possible. All of a sudden, Jo-kun burst into tears. Then, he ran back to his tent without looking back. Little Kunken. Meng Bao cried out in worry. You should go and comfort him. I'm guessing he won't be able to accept this fact for a while. Ji-yun hurriedly urged. Oh. I'll go comfort him immediately. After saying that, Meng Bao, who was at a loss, also ran away. After the two of them left, Leng Ruoxue and the rest turned their gazes towards Ji-yun. They looked at him steadily without saying a word. Ji-yun's hair stood on end from their gazes. Cold sweat involuntarily trickled down his forehead. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead with lingering fear. He couldn't take it anymore and said, "Don't look at me like that, I'm scared." These wolf-like gazes seemed to want to eat him up. Woo, how could they bully him like this? Ji-yun felt wronged. What did you do? After a long while, Leng Ruoxue asked with a faint smile. She did not believe that Jo-kun, a grown man, would be pregnant. I didn't do anything. Ji-yun blinked his eyes and said innocently. Leniency to those who confess, severity to those who resist. It's your choice. Leng Ruoxue didn't waste any words with him and directly gave him two choices. Can I choose the third option? Ji-yun said with a fawning smile. There's no third option. Leng Ruoxue's beautiful eyes were half squinted as she looked at Ji-yun with an unfriendly expression. Woo-woo. You're such bullies. What exactly do you want me to do? Ji-yun couldn't bear the enormous pressure and said with a sad face. We just want to know what's going on with Jo-kun's pregnancy. Are you the one behind it? Yu-chin sighed softly and said somewhat helplessly. If it was really Ji-yun who was playing tricks on Jo-kun, he would not be worried. He was only afraid that Jo-kun was really pregnant. If that happened, it would be difficult to handle. Although he had not heard of any man who could give birth in the divine realm, just because they did not know did not mean that it did not exist in this world. If I say that he really has it, would you believe me? Ji-yun cautiously asked. What do you think? Yu-chin asked. All right. I admit that I did something to him. Ji-yun confessed honestly. How did you do it? Leng Ruoxue was a little curious. Ji-yun had actually made Jo-kun mistakenly think that there were signs of life in her body. This was not an easy thing to do. I once obtained a pill by chance. That pill has the effect of simulating the characteristics of life, so I gave it to him without him knowing. Ji-yoon said smugly. So that's how it is. It's a good thing that he's not really pregnant. Otherwise, we'd be in big trouble. Yuchin heaved a sigh of relief after hearing this. How can our trouble be big? Ji-yoon didn't understand. If he really has it, can we immediately set off? Not only that, but Meng Bao might even need us to help take care of him. Don't you think we're in big trouble? I don't want to take care of that pregnant woman. Yuchin gritted his teeth and emphasized the word pregnant. Ha ha ha. Seeing Yuchen's reaction, Leng Ruoxue and the rest could not help but laugh. At this time, Zhou Kun, who had already hidden in the tent, was in an extremely low mood. He had it. He actually had a child, Wu. He didn't become the first eunuch in the divine realm, but was about to become the first man to give birth to a child in the divine realm. This fact was also something that he couldn't accept. Zhou Kun lowered his head, and tears streamed down his face. All of a sudden, he was hugged by a strong arm. The owner of the arm looked at him with a distressed expression and said, "Little Kunkin, I know it's hard for you to accept this, but there's no point in being depressed now. Let's just get over it. Be good. We're going to have a baby, hee hee. This is really good news." After Meng Bao comforted Zhou Kun a little, he was so happy that he forgot himself again. However, Zhou Kun became even angrier when he heard her words. Good news my ass. If you're pregnant, it might be good news, but I'm the one pregnant now. How is that good news? If outsiders were to find out, how would I have the face to continue living in the divine realm in the future? Zhou Kun was furious, and he had no way to vent the anger in his heart. He felt a sharp pain in his chest. But things have already come to this. What else can we do? Meng Bao said helplessly. She knew that little Kunkin was in a bad mood, so she could only coax him patiently. Zhou Kun was a little speechless. Damn it. If he knew what to do, wouldn't that be good? Little Kun, let's get married immediately after we leave the elite conference. Otherwise, wouldn't our child be an illegitimate child? Seeing that Zhou Kun seemed to have calmed down a little, Meng Bao made a suggestion. Married? There are still 10 days left until the elite gathering. Anything can happen in these 10 days. So, let's think about how to save our lives here first. As for marriage, we can talk about it later. Zhou Kun said perfunctorily. Although he had the ugly woman's child, he still did not want to marry her. Chapter 1885, Potential Rival in Love, 3, Little Kunkin. Don't worry. With me around, I'll do everything I can to ensure your and our child's safety. Meng Bao promised. I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it. Zhou Kun understood that when the day of the decisive battle came, it would be good enough if Meng Bao could protect himself. He would not be able to take care of Zhou Kun. Little Kun, you have to believe me. I'll definitely place your and our child's safety as my top priority. Seeing that Zhou Kun did not seem to believe her words, Meng Bao assured him again. Then, he acted cute and coquettishly, finally making Zhou Kun believe him. In fact, Zhou Kun was just annoyed by her. Hence, he had no choice but to pretend to believe her. In the next few days, Zhou Kun remained sickly and could not eat anything at all. Upon seeing that, Meng Bao, who was trying to please him, almost turned white from worry. With no other choice, Meng Bao could only seek help from Leng Ruoxue. In the tent, Meng Bao looked at Leng Ruoxue uneasily and mumbled, Miss Leng, I need your help. If you want me to persuade Zhou Kun to eat on your behalf, forget it. Leng Ruoxue said, cutting off Meng Bao's words. Why? He doesn't want to eat, but I know he'll listen to you. Please help me persuade him. Meng Bao pleaded. Miss Meng, Zhou Kun is just suffering from morning sickness. If he really can't eat, you don't have to force him. He's already a god anyway, so he won't starve to death even if he doesn't eat. As for the child in his stomach, you don't have to worry about it. The child of a god isn't that weak. In fact, in her opinion, Meng Bao was even more abnormal than Zhou Kun. After all, Zhou Kun was just depressed and could not accept the fact that he was pregnant. However, what about Meng Bao? However, she had been busy for the past few days. Miss Meng, we have to leave this place tomorrow. Leng Ruoxue reminded him again. Due to Zhou Kun's pregnancy, they had been delayed for a few more days, and they could not afford to delay any longer. Miss Leng, there's no need to leave in a hurry. We might be teleported to a place with many people. Knowing that Leng Ruoxue was anxious to compete, Meng Bao revealed a secret. Hearing this, Leng Ruoxue's pupils contracted. She squinted her beautiful eyes and said indifferently, "Are you saying that we will be transported to other places?" "I'm just saying that it's possible, because the situation is different every year. If the battle in that year is relatively intense, we won't be teleported away. However, if there are too many contestants like us who haven't fought a single battle, we might be gathered together." Meng Bao explained. There's such a situation. Leng Ruoxue had never heard her godfather mention this before, so she was really not sure. However, such a situation has only happened once in history, and it has been a long time, so I guess that many families have forgotten about it. Meng Bao said. Since you knew, why didn't you tell us earlier? You made us run around like headless flies. Leng Ruoxue complained. I can't think of it at the moment. Moreover, this situation isn't absolute. I just feel that it's possible for us to do so, and it may not be what I think. Meng Bao observed Leng Ruoxue's expression and asked carefully. So, you're willing to take a gamble for Zhou Kun's sake? Leng Ruoxue asked, clearly aware that Meng Bao would not have remembered this if it were not for the fact that Zhou Kun was pregnant and could not travel in a hurry. Of course, it was also possible that she wouldn't tell him even if she knew. "MMH. We haven't even fought before. I believe that the God Lord's estate will have other arrangements." Meng Bao said with certainty. "If it's not like what you said, and we weren't teleported together, what should we do?" Leng Ruoxue asked indifferently. "Then there's no loss for you to stay here. There's no one else here, and we don't have to fight to the death, nor will we get hurt. When the time comes, we'll naturally be able to leave." Meng Bao said with a smile. Right now, she really needed Leng Ruoxue and the others by her side. Therefore, she must not let them leave. After all, if she were to encounter an opponent, it would be a little difficult for her to protect Zhou Kun alone. "If everyone thinks the same way as you, then what are we doing here? Are you traveling?" "This woman has really fallen into Zhou Kun's love net," Leng Ruoxue said, feeling a little speechless. "Look at how she pampers Zhou Kun. She's almost worshipping him. Hee. Peace is the most important thing. It's boring to fight and kill, isn't it?" Meng Bao said with a sneer. "When we first met, it seemed like you already wanted to fight us." Leng Ruoxue reminded him with a half-smile. It was a misunderstanding. That was a misunderstanding. We're also friends after a fight." Meng Bao chuckled. She didn't deny that she had the desire to fight, but that was different now. Little Kunkin was pregnant. If she fought with others like before and accidentally hurt little Kunkin, it would be a life-and-death situation. Out of blows, friendship grows. Since you've said so, we'll have to risk our lives to accompany you. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Meng Bao's face lit up with joy. However, Leng Ruoxue's next words caused her anticipation to drop to the bottom of the valley. "However, don't expect me to persuade Zhou Kun for you." Leng Ruoxue continued. Can't you?" Meng Bao still wanted to persuade Leng Ruoxue. "We can't." Leng Ruoxue interrupted Meng Bao's words and said without any room for discussion. "All right then." Looking at the stubborn Leng Ruoxue, Meng Bao knew that he would not be able to convince her. She had already given him face by staying, so he should not force her to do anything. After saying that, Meng Bao turned around and left resentfully. Not long after she left, Ji Yun and the others ran in sneakily. Ruoxue. What did she say to you? By the way, shouldn't we be preparing to leave? Ji Yun asked in rapid succession. There's no rush. Well, stay here until the end of the competition. Leng Ruoxue said after some thought. Ah. Leng Ruoxue's words left Ji Yun dumbfounded. He didn't hear her wrong, did he? The person who wanted to leave the most had actually taken the initiative to stay. Seeing that Ji Yun and the others were puzzled, Leng Ruoxue repeated what Yao Bao had told her to them. After hearing it, Ji Yun and the others all fell silent. I still have to fight. Ji Yun's face was teary as he spoke with extreme reluctance. Of course we have to fight. Why else would you come here? Are you here to play? Yu Qin said, somewhat speechless. Ji Yun's words made him have the urge to beat someone up. Hee hee. How did you know that I came here to play? In fact, I'm just a bystander. Who asked me to be the young master of the Ji family? I had no choice but to come. Ji Yun's tone was filled with grievance. Yu Shu gritted her teeth upon hearing this. It seemed that the Ji family had really spoiled Ji Yun. Chapter 1886, Interrogation, 1. As he thought of this, Yu Chen's gaze turned to Ji Wu and Ji Tao, and he communicated with them with his eyes. Is this the young master of the Ji family? Ji Wu and Ji Tao returned Yu Chen's gaze with absolute certainty. In reality, the two of them had no way of dealing with Ji Yun's temper. Even the Ji clan's ancestor had to admit defeat when facing Ji Yun, let alone them. This was because sometimes, Ji Yun was really. Seeing their expressions, Yu Chen lost his temper. Sister Ruoxue, since you've decided to stay here, then well stay here. Yu Chen sighed and changed the topic. After receiving Yu Chen's affirmative answer, Leng Ruoxue turned her gaze towards Ji Yun and the other two. Without waiting for Leng Ruoxue to ask, Ji Yun immediately expressed his stance in a very obsequious manner. Ruoxue, I'll be wherever you are. Is that so? Suddenly, an ice-cold voice sounded out of nowhere, causing the temperature around them to drop. When Ji Yun and the rest heard this voice, they could not help but shiver. On the other hand, Leng Ruoxue's face was filled with joy as she hurriedly left the tent. The moment she stepped out of the tent, Leng Ruoxue saw a peerless and magnificent man standing outside. In an instant, she was like a swallow returning to its nest as she threw herself into the man's embrace. The man was also hugging Leng Ruoxue tightly. When Ji Wu and the others came out and saw this scene, their eyes immediately widened in disbelief. What was this situation? Ji Yun's reaction was even more direct. He immediately roared, "Let go of Ruoxue." After he finished speaking, he wanted to rush forward and pull the two people who were tightly hugging each other away, but he was stopped by Ji Wu and Ji Tao. Why are you guys pulling me? Quickly let me go, can't you see that little sister Ruoxue is being bullied? Ji Yun was furious. He glared at the man's arms that were wrapped around Leng Ruoxue. He wished he could burn a hole in them. It's too much of an eyesore, isn't it? It was really an eyesore. Ji Yun was going crazy. He hadn't even hugged little sister Ruoxue before. Now, it was actually snatched by a guy who came out of nowhere. It was really preposterous. Young master. Don't embarrass yourself, the two of them should know each other. Ji Tao couldn't help but send a mental message. Ji Yun, who was burning with jealousy, couldn't see the situation clearly, but couldn't they? Moreover, that man didn't look like someone to be trifled with. His Ji Yun was probably no match for him. They were well aware of this, so they naturally wouldn't allow Ji Yun to do something he shouldn't have done in his rashness. How is this possible? Ji Yun stupidly muttered to himself. He was unwilling to believe this truth, because whether it was in terms of appearance or cultivation, that man was much stronger than him. Woo! One was the bright moon in the sky, while the other was the dust on the ground. There was simply no comparison between the two of them. However, he, who had always been self-aware, knew that the dust was him. Young master. Calm down. We'll know once we ask. Ji Tao consoled her. The truth was clear, so there was no need to ask. After all, they had been together with Leng Ruoxue for quite some time. Although that woman looked very friendly, there was a hint of alienation in her friendliness. However, before they could ask about the man's identity, Leng Ruoxue took the initiative to introduce him to them. He's my fiancé, Yechen. Leng Ruoxue said with a faint smile. Her beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at the devilish man in front of her. During this period of time, she really wanted to be a devilish man. Ah. Hello. I've long heard of your great name. Ji Wu and Ji Tao hurriedly replied while secretly sizing up Yechen from the corner of their eyes. When Ji Yun found out that this man was Ruoxue's fiancé, he immediately became listless from the huge blow. Oh. Heavens. You don't have to provoke me like this. TSK. TSK. What an unparalleled handsome man. Ji Wu and Ji Tao secretly praised him. Although they had always admitted that they were pretty, compared to this demonic man, the difference was like heaven and earth. There was no way to compare them. In addition to his cold temperament, he had the ability to cause the surrounding temperature to drop by a lot, which was something they did not have. Previously, they had been gossiping and guessing what kind of man was qualified to be Leng Ruoxue's fiancé. After all, Leng Ruoxue was a peerless beauty in their eyes. Hence, they had already determined in their hearts that a man who was worthy of Leng Ruoxue would definitely not be an ordinary man. Today, they had finally met this man who had been known for a long time. He was indeed worthy of his reputation. The two of them, be it their appearance or temperament, were very compatible. Furthermore, when they saw the beautiful couple snuggling together, they actually felt that it was so natural, and so pleasing to the eye. At this moment, if someone wanted to destroy this beautiful scene, they would find it unbearable. Unfortunately, there were always people who didn't know what was good for them. Young Master Yi. Who is this young lady? Suddenly, a gentle and beautiful voice interrupted abruptly, breaking the originally quiet atmosphere. When Ji Wu and Ji Tao saw that someone had ruined this beautiful atmosphere, they were instantly enraged. However, when they saw the face of the person who had spoken, they were both dumbfounded. Sister Min. The two of them said in unison. They didn't expect the person who ruined this beautiful atmosphere to be their eldest miss of the Ji family. What should they do now? Ji Wu and Ji Tao looked at each other, feeling helpless. When Leng Ruoxue heard Ji Min's words, she didn't even look at Ji Min. Instead, she turned her beautiful eyes towards the demon. Seeing this, the demon's expression remained calm and composed as he brought Leng Ruoxue into the tent. When Ji Min saw this scene, her lungs almost exploded from anger. Damn it! These two people actually ignored her existence like this. Since when had she ever received such treatment? Who's that woman? Ji Min was so angry that she grabbed Ji Tao's collar and pulled him in front of her. She couldn't help but ask. It's his fiancé. Ji Tao told the truth. At this time, his reaction was slow, but he also knew that his haughty eldest miss had fallen for that demonic man. However, looking at the state of their relationship, it would be difficult for outsiders to intervene. At the thought of this, Ji Tao looked at Ji Yun worriedly. This pair of siblings could really be considered to be in the same boat. However, Ji Yun seemed to be in a better state as he had always been carefree since he was young. It was hard to say for Ji Min. Although Ji Min was the eldest young lady of the Ji family and one of the most dazzling leaders of their generation, and was considered an idol-level figure in their hearts, after being with Leng Ruoxue for this period of time, Ji Tao was very clear about Leng Ruoxue's character. She was not easy to get along with. If Ji Min met her, she might not be able to gain any benefits. More importantly, Leng Ruoxue was their savior, so he was 1,000 times more. They really didn't want Ji Min to have any ideas about her fiancé. If the two of them had any conflicts, they would feel very embarrassed. Chapter 1887, Interrogation. 2. They should have helped Ji Min, but they would feel sorry for Leng Ruoxue if they did that. Ji Min was not in the right. But she was still a member of the Ji family. So they did not do anything to her. Ji Tao began to feel conflicted. Fiancé. Ji Min narrowed her eyes, and a thought-provoking light flashed in the depths of her beautiful eyes. She didn't expect that young Master Yi really had a fiancé. She thought that they were just perfunctory with her. What should I do now? Miss Ji, I've told you before that Commander Yi is my Miss Fiancé. Now you should believe me. At this time, another helpless voice rang out. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw two beautiful women standing not far away from them. One of them was wearing green clothes, and the other was wearing pink clothes. The one who spoke was the woman in green. These two people were Lu Tao and Sueju. Green Peach. Was that woman really your family's young miss? Ji Min asked with a slight suspicion. How can this be fake? Don't tell me we don't even recognize our own miss. Lu Tao rolled her eyes and said, somewhat speechless. When they first met Ji Min, they felt that Ji Min was a very open and generous person and was easy to get along with. However, ever since she met Commander Yi, Ji Min seemed to have changed into a different person overnight and became a stranger to them. Perhaps this was the real her. Since that woman is your family's young miss, why didn't you all go up and acknowledge her just now? Ji Min was still very suspicious and raised a new question. We do want to go forward, but guild leader Yi clearly wants to spend some alone time with my young miss. If we go forward, won't we attract guild leader Yi's hatred? As a human, you should know your place and not do such a disgusting thing. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Green Peach said with a hidden meaning. These words were clearly directed at Ji Min, but Ji Min didn't intend to take Green Peach's warning seriously. After all, Green Peach's identity was obvious. She was willing to let go of her identity as the young lady of the Ji family to befriend him, which was already a great honor for her. How could she allow Green Peach to ruin her marriage? From the first time she saw Yechen, her eyes and heart had been filled with that man's figure. She could no longer tolerate anyone else's existence, so for the sake of her own happiness, she had to take a gamble. Not to mention that Leng Ruoxue only had a fiancé, even if she already had a wife, she still wanted to snatch the only man that she liked from another woman. After she made up her mind, she saw Leng Ruoxue as her greatest love rival in this life. However, she thought of herself as a wise woman. Even if she wanted to snatch her love away, she had to pay attention to the method and strategy. She could not give others the chance to gossip. Fortunately, Leng Ruoxue was still unaware of Ji Min's thoughts. Otherwise, she would definitely mock her for wanting to be a whore and yet wanting to have a good reputation. When will they come out? Ji Min asked as she looked at the tightly shut tent. When she said this, her expression was normal, but in fact, her heart was already in turmoil. She was jealous. He was so jealous that he was about to go crazy. Why wasn't she the woman inside? Throughout the entire journey, Yichen had never looked at her in the eye, let alone smiled at her. However, she had clearly seen Yichen smile at the woman just now and he seemed to be very doting on her. All of this made her so jealous that she was going crazy. I don't know. Maybe tomorrow, or maybe they won't come out until they leave this place. Lu Tao said indifferently. How can I do that? Upon hearing this, Ji Min gritted her teeth in hatred. Why can't I? Leader Yi is my Miss Man, isn't it only natural for them to be together? Lu Tao said with a faint smile. Her impression of Ji Min was getting worse and worse. Ever since Commander Yi appeared, her good impression of Ji Min had disappeared. But we're in a competition. Ji Min couldn't help but remind him. It doesn't matter. The final battle hasn't come yet. The two of them haven't seen each other for so long, it's only right for them to have a good gathering. At this moment, Yu Shu said with a faint smile. Hearing this, Ji Min immediately pointed the spearhead at Yu Chen and questioned him with an unhappy expression. Who are you? Is there any place for you to interrupt? She was so angry that she couldn't maintain her usual elegant demeanor and directly exposed her true nature. Seeing her like this, Ji Wu and Ji Tao, who had never seen this side of her before, widened their eyes in shock. They looked at Ji Min in disbelief, as if their eldest miss had been replaced by someone else. On the other hand, Ji Yun was much calmer, and a trace of ridicule flashed through his clear eyes. "I'm Sister Ruoxu's brother. Since you're suspicious of their privacy, and she's not here, I naturally have to answer you on her behalf." When Yuchen said this, he had a faint smile on his face, but his tone was very indifferent and distant. Looking at Ji Min, Yuchen was a little disappointed with the eldest miss of the Ji family, who was rumored to be a god. Thinking back, someone in the Yu family had even suggested for Ji Min to be his young madam. Fortunately, it was rejected by the old ancestor. Now it seemed that the older the wiser. The old ancestor must have long seen that Ji Min was a person who did not mean what she said. Otherwise, he would not have rejected this matter. Looking at Ji Min, Yuchen once again thanked the old ancestor for his wise decision. Although Ji Min was very beautiful, she gave off a very strong feeling. This type of woman was usually very stubborn and would not give up until she achieved her goal. So, when he saw her reaction to the man just now, Yuchen started to worry about Leng Ruoxue. In his heart, he really treated Leng Ruoxue as his little sister. In addition, Leng Ruoxue did not act very domineering in front of them. Hence, Yuchen subconsciously placed Leng Ruoxue in a position that needed protection. As for this woman who wanted to hurt Ruoxue and snatch Ruoxu's fiancé, she was naturally blacklisted by him. The way people interacted with each other was really strange. Some people might not become true friends even after knowing each other for a lifetime. However, some people only knew each other for a few minutes, and they could become life and death friends that they trusted the most. This was probably fate between people. "Brother? That's not her real brother, what right do you have to represent her?" Ji Min scoffed at Yi Chen's words and said disdainfully. "Sister, Brother Yu is the young master of the Yu family." Suddenly, Ji Yun reminded her. Although he didn't like his sister very much, he couldn't just watch Ji Min offend Yu Chen. It wouldn't do the Ji family any good. So it's the Yu family's young master. Ji Min has been impolite. Upon hearing Ji Yun's words, Ji Min immediately reacted and resumed her usual magnanimous and appropriate way of dealing with things. She also apologized to Yu Shu. Yu Chen only smiled and did not say anything. At this moment, Ji Min's gaze turned to Ji Yun. She rushed in front of Ji Yun with unusual enthusiasm and tightly grabbed his wrist. She sized him up and down. After confirming that Ji Yun was safe and sound, she seemed to be relieved. "Xiao Yun, it's great that you're fine. You don't know how worried I've been for you." Chapter 1888, Interrogation, 3, Thank you for your concern, sister. "I'm very well." The corner of Ji Yun's mouth twitched as he indifferently replied. He was extremely cold to Ji Min's enthusiasm. Ji Tao and Ji Wu were already used to this, but Yuchen felt that the way the siblings got along was a little unusual. "Xiao Yun, are you still blaming me?" "AI. It's all big sister's fault. If I had held you tightly when we entered this place, we wouldn't have been separated. You must have suffered a lot," Ji Min said with a pained expression, her beautiful face full of guilt. "Sister. I don't blame you." Ji Yun rolled his eyes and said in a speechless manner. Does this sister speak without thinking? If when they entered this place, the people of each clan could be transmitted together as long as they held each other tightly, then what was the point of entering here? It would be better to compete directly outside. Little Yun, when she heard this, Ji Min thought that Ji Yun was angry. Therefore, she looked at him with an aggrieved expression. "Sister, I'm tired. I'll go back and rest first." Ji Yun was speechless at Ji Min's reaction, but he didn't want to act like a brother and sister in front of outsiders, so he went straight into his tent. Xiao Yun, Ji Yun had already left. Ji Min watched his back as he left, but she still called out softly. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears, but she forced them back. Little Yun is blaming me. Ji Min muttered to herself. Seeing her like this, Ji Woo and Ji Tao didn't know what to say, because this kind of situation was common in the Ji family. Outsiders all knew that Ji Min doted on Ji Yun to the bone, but what they didn't know was that Ji Min always stuck her warm face to Ji Yun's cold ass because Ji Yun didn't appreciate her love at all. Turning around and leaving like this was still fine, but Ji Yun was capable of doing things that made Ji Min even more embarrassed. Although they didn't know why Ji Yun would treat Ji Min like this, according to their ancestor, this was the unique way the siblings got along. As long as they didn't feel that there was anything wrong with it, it was enough. No one had the right to question it. Ever since the patriarch had said these words, the clansmen who felt that Ji Min had been treated unfairly had greatly decreased. After all, everyone was well aware that the patriarch was clearly biased towards Ji Yun. Don't you think Xiaoyun is blaming me? Seeing that no one responded to her words, Ji Min could only ask again. The young master won't blame you. You're his sister after all. Ji Tao had no choice but to comfort her. Although he admired Ji Min, in his heart, Ji Yun was still more important. No matter how useless Ji Yun appeared to be, his position as young master Ji Yun was still unbreakable. Everyone in the Ji family knew this. That's good. AI. When you have time, please explain it to me. I don't want Xiaoyun to misunderstand me. Ji Min said with a hint of resentment. Yes. Ji Woo and Ji Tao nodded their heads readily. As for whether or not they would tell him and when, that was their own business. After that, the few people who didn't feel very familiar with each other felt that they had nothing to say and each found an excuse to go back to work. Seeing Lu Tao and Sueju setting up the tent, Yu Chen, who had nothing to do, took the initiative to help. Young master of the Yu family, there's no need to trouble you. Well, be done immediately. Seeing that Yu Chen was about to make a move, Lu Tao hurriedly stopped him. They had also heard about Yu Chen's identity from Ji Yun. You don't have to be so polite with me. I'm the big brother that little sister Ruoshua acknowledged. Yu Chen said enthusiastically. Ah. Lu Tao did not know what to do with Yu Chen, who was so familiar with her. They were used to doing everything by themselves. Therefore, they were not used to an outsider coming to help. What's more, the person who came claimed to be her young miss brother. Would her young miss be so bored as to casually acknowledge a brother? Green Peach was very suspicious of this. However, she was too lazy to expose him. After all, what were these young masters? They had to give him some face, right? In reality, Lu Tao's guess was right. It was not Len Ruoshue who had taken the initiative to acknowledge Yu Chen as her brother, but Yu Shu had called him that out of familiarity. After a long time, Len Ruoshue had tacitly agreed. Yu Chen was not an annoying fellow anyway, and he was very tactful. In that case, it was no loss for her to have an older brother who had taken the initiative to come to her door. By the way, how did you find us? Is it a coincidence, or? Then, while helping Lu Tao and Sueju set up their tents, Yu Shu asked curiously. Hee hee. Of course, I know where you are. Otherwise, how would we be able to find it? However, we've been searching for you for days. Hearing Yu Chen's question, Sueju replied without much scheming. Seeing Qui's straightforward answer, Lu Tao could not help but glare at her. However, Lu Tao also felt that Yu Chen's question was not a secret, so she simply explained it. We met two people on the way and they told us. However, they only told us your approximate location. So, in order to find you, we have been searching for a long time. Lu Tao's words were similar to Sueju's. After Yu Chen heard it, he suspected that they had met the same person, Lu Sun, whom Len Ruoshue had mentioned that Zhou Kun had offended. And this Lu Sun told everyone his whereabouts. What was he trying to do? Could it be that Lu Sun thought that Len Ruoshue and the rest would remain in their original positions? Wasn't Lu Sun's IQ too low? Actually, someone told me that I would meet little sister Ruoshue and the others. Furthermore, according to my guess, the person who told us about little sister Ruoxue and the others' whereabouts should be the same person. Following that, Yu Chen also truthfully said. Arg. What was going on? What does he want to do? Yu Chen's words caused Lu Tao and Suizhu to turn pale with fright. However, at the same time, they were also quite glad. After all, they had already found their miss. Humph. With them around, let's see who dares to bully their young miss. For revenge. Yu Chen said softly. Then, he told the two maidservants what he had heard from Leng Ruoxue and the others. Lu Tao and Suizhu were dumbfounded and gasped in admiration. After a long time, Lu Tao and Suizhu kept sighing, and their beautiful faces were filled with depression. Don't worry, little sister Ruoxue and the others will be fine. When he saw that the two maidservants had become listless after hearing his words, he thought that they were worried about Leng Ruoxue. Hence, he consoled them immediately. We're not worried, we're just regretful. Suizhu could not help but ask. Ah. This time, it was Yu Shu's turn to be stunned. Then, he asked in a silly manner, what are you regretting? It's a pity that we weren't there. We didn't even get to participate in such a fun event. Sob. I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Suizhu said somewhat exaggerately, her beautiful eyes still faintly rippling with tears. Chapter 1889, Interrogation, 4, Yu Shu started to sweat. He deeply felt that he was old and there was a big generation gap between him and these little girls. Otherwise, why couldn't he understand what this little girl was thinking? If Suizhu had said that she was worried about Leng Ruoxue, or that she was afraid that Leng Ruoxue would be injured, he would have thought that it was normal. However, she had treated it as a game and even regretted that she could not participate. Was this how a normal person thought? What's there to regret? Maybe that guy will come to our miss for revenge. At that time, well, take care of him. Unlike Suizhu, although she was also depressed at the beginning, she thought further. She even thought that the other party might come to take revenge on her young lady, so she decided to make early preparations. Soon after, Lu Tao took out all of her bottles from her storage ring and said with a wicked smile, if that guy really dares to come, I'll let him have a good taste of the power of these medicines. Seeing this, Yu Chen was extremely surprised. What are these medicines? In view of the Green Peach's high praise for his medicine, Yu Chen was very curious. Poison. Green Peach's pink lips parted slightly as she spat out two words. Ah. Yu Shu's forehead was full of black lines. She thought to herself, a woman's heart is indeed the most vicious. Lu Sen hadn't arrived yet, but the other party had already prepared the poison. However, with so many bottles of poison, would Lu Sen be able to handle it? Hee hee. Most of them are poison, but some are in tea. Green Peach explained kindly when she saw that Yu Han seemed to be frightened. This is itching powder, she continued. This bottle was stinky powder. This place is filled with things that can make the whole body rot. She introduced them to Yu Chen one by one with a bad heart. After Yu Chen heard this, more black lines appeared on his forehead, and he broke out in cold sweat. He thought in his heart, ruthless. How ruthless. Compared to those so-called poisons, these medicines were probably even better. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but shiver. Sob. Women these days were really too scary, especially the more harmless they looked. When they were fierce, they were often unexpected. However, thinking of the effects of the powder that Lu Tao had introduced to him, Yu Chen's heart began to itch like a cat's scratch. Although the powder sounded scary, it was good to save lives in critical moments. Thinking of this, he thickened his skin and began to please her. That. Can you give me some of these herbs? I want to keep it for self-defense. Yu Chen said, a little embarrassed. No. I only have these. If you really want them, go to my family's young miss. Seeing Yu Chen staring at her medicine, Green Peach hurriedly put away the medicine and looked at him with a vigilant look. However, she still kindly provided Yu Chen with the source of these medicines. Little sister Ruoxue, do you have a lot? Yu Chen asked in surprise. Yes. Lu Tao nodded and thought, of course her young miss has a lot, because that medicine was refined by her young miss. Then I'll go and get it from sister Ruoxue. Yu Chen said hurriedly. He was about to look for Leng Ruoxue, but he was stopped by Lu Tao. Wait, you can't go now. Otherwise, guild leader Yi will hate you. Lu Tao could not help but remind him. Ah. Why? Yu Chen was puzzled. He didn't do anything to Leng Ruoxue, so why would that fellow hate him? Stupid. Don't be a third wheel now, otherwise, leader Yi will go crazy. Suizhu could not help but say. After saying this, she deeply felt that she was really too kind. Ah. Alright then. Thanks for the reminder, I'm going back to rest. You guys should rest early too. After Yu Chen finished speaking, he turned around and left. Seeing this, Lu Tao and Suizhu also entered the tent that had just been set up. For a moment, only Ji Min, Ji Wu, and Ji Tao were left in the large area. Ji Wu and Ji Tao wanted to find an excuse to return to the tent, but Ji Min refused to let them leave. She insisted on chatting with them. Although she said it was a chat, she was only asking them about Leng Ruoxue's situation. In reality, they had not spent a lot of time with Leng Ruoxue, so their understanding of her was naturally not deep enough. Hence, after their conversation, they could not provide much useful information to Ji Min. In fact, Ji Min was not even clear about Leng Ruoxue's strength. This fact made Ji Min extremely depressed and dejected. In the end, she didn't even know when Ji Wu and Ji Tao had left. She sat by the fire alone until dawn. On the other side. After the demon pulled Leng Ruoxue into the tent, he had Leng Ruoxue bring him back to the bangle. In the purple bamboo house, the two of them shared their lovesickness with each other. Following that, Leng Ruoxue began to interrogate the woman about her identity. Demon, tell me the truth. Who is that woman? Leng Ruoxue pretended to be angry and put on a straight face, pretending to be displeased. This fellow was really too good at attracting peach blossoms. However, this peach blossom seemed to be smarter and was different from the brainless women in the past. This kind of woman was relatively difficult to deal with. She's just a passerby. Let's not talk about her anymore. Let's change the topic. The demon suggested. No. Explain her problem first, or else you're not allowed to change the topic. It was rare for Leng Ruoxue to be so willful, and she did not leave any room for discussion. But, she really has nothing to talk about. In comparison, I'm more interested in knowing who the guy who said that hell be there wherever you are is. The evildoer also started to calculate. Ah. That guy's name is Ji Yun. We met here. Leng Ruoxue replied simply. How could she have forgotten that the evildoer was even more jealous than her? Woo, I miscalculated. And then? The demon squinted his eyes and asked indifferently. Leng Ruoxue could hear a trace of displeasure in his tone. There's nothing else. Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but shrink her neck. She regretted starting this topic. Great, she had brought it upon herself. You really don't have any more? The evildoer was obviously not satisfied with Leng Ruoxue's answer. He gently bit her snow-white arm, leaving 2 rows of teeth marks on her smooth and tender skin before he let go in satisfaction. It hurts. Leng Ruoxue looked at him pitifully, the tears in her beautiful eyes threatening to fall. Then, she purposely said, You're such a bully. You didn't explain clearly about that strange woman and even bit me. I said she's just a passerby. There's nothing to explain. The demon started to tease Leng Ruoxue. To be honest, he quite liked it when Shuer was jealous over such a small matter. At least, this showed that Shuer cared about him. Even so, you still have to explain clearly how you got to know her, How dare you bring a strange woman with you? I think you're really, Len Ruoxiu's face was flushed red as she gritted her teeth. She didn't finish her sentence, but she knew that the evildoer knew what she wanted to say. At this moment, she was playing the role of a willful, unruly, and jealous girlfriend very well, and her performance also pleased the demon. The demon hugged Len Ruoxiu tightly and kissed her pouted pink lips without any hesitation. His chest was shaking from his smile. He was obviously very happy. Don't laugh. Len Ruoxiu cupped her devilishly beautiful face and warned him seriously. Good. No smile. I won't laugh. The demon coaxed, but then, he laughed even louder. Hee hee. Shuai's current appearance was really too cute. He really couldn't get enough of looking at her. However, he was afraid that he would go too far in playing with fire, so he patiently explained Ji Min's existence to Len Ruoxiu. He did not want Shuai to really take him seriously, and that would be bad. Chapter 1890, You're too unsympathetic. 1. Shuai, I didn't keep that woman by my side. When I met her, she was already with Lu Tao and the others. Moreover, at that time, they were being besieged, and your maidservant was being bullied. So, I saved her in passing. The demon explained simply. Not only that, that woman even claimed that she was a friend of your two maidservants. Since she is their friend and has nothing to do with me, it wouldn't be good for me to drive her away, right? Actually, he really wanted to drive her away, but that woman acted normal in front of him and wasn't very enthusiastic about him, so he couldn't be too narcissistic, could he? However, after seeing Shuai, it seemed that the woman couldn't hold back anymore. That woman clearly has feelings for you. Len Ruoxiu reminded, her beautiful face filled with displeasure. So what? In my eyes, she's just a passerby. Besides, if I say that she has never pestered me or expressed her love for me, would you believe me? The demon raised his eyebrows and asked. I do. That woman looks smart and not easy to deal with. Len Ruoxiu nodded her head. This was how a smart woman should behave. Those who drooled at the sight of a man were infatuated. When a smart woman pursued the man she liked, she would usually be calm and unmoved. Ha ha ha. No matter how smart she is, can she compare to my Shuai? The demon smiled and tried to please him. Humph. There's no point in trying to please me. No matter what, this woman was brought back by you. Len Ruoxiu pretended to be displeased and pouted her pink lips. Seeing this, the demon's heart heated up and he could not help but kiss her again. Len Ruoxiu was breathless from the demon's kiss. After a long time, she finally found a chance to breathe. She looked at the demon with slight displeasure and said, Don't even think about getting away with it. This guy was really getting worse. Shuai, I didn't provoke that woman. It was Lu Tao and Suizhu who provoked her. So, don't blame it on me. It's very unfair to me. His devilish black eyes stared unblinkingly at Len Ruoxiu. His eyes were filled with grievances. You're the one who attracted the peach blossoms, and you're blaming others? Len Ruoxiu was a little speechless. Even though she knew that the evildoer was somewhat innocent in this matter, if it wasn't for his devastatingly beautiful appearance, why would those peach blossoms who had been mesmerized by his beauty come to her door one after another? Wasn't it enough to have a brain-dead girl who was infatuated with him? Now that a smart and scheming woman had come to her door, she didn't have to do anything in the long run. She just had to help the demon drive away these rotten peach flowers. You're pretty good at attracting peach blossoms. Hearing Len Ruoxiu's words, the evildoer could not help but whisper. As long as he was not by Shuai's side, she would be entangled by some man. Sob. It seemed like he would have to stay by Shuai's side and protect her from now on, he decided in his heart. What did you just say? Len Ruoxiu squinted her beautiful eyes as she spoke in an unfriendly tone. Damn evildoer, they were talking about his matters now, but he actually dragged her into it. Was this considered as him trying to drag her down with him? It's nothing. It was nothing. Shuai, it's getting late, can we rest? The evildoer said hurriedly. Right now, he didn't dare to mention anything about Ji Yun. Otherwise, Shuai would definitely get angry with him. However, it didn't matter. There were still many days ahead. He would deal with that kid when he had the chance. I haven't had a good night's sleep in these days. The demon added. After he finished speaking, he hugged Shuai and lay down on the bed. After Len Ruoxue fell asleep, the demon summoned Green Vessel. What's the matter? Qing Ju looked at the demon warily. Every time this guy came to find him alone, it was definitely not something good. However, he could not reject him. Sob. He was the most pitiful weapon spirit in the world. What do you think? Didn't I tell you to help me look after Shuai? Is this how you look at her? The demon squinted his dazzling starry eyes and said with slight displeasure. Those few guys are insignificant. They can't pose any threat to you. When Qing Ju heard this, he quickly explained. He knew that the evil man was planning to settle the score after this. This guy did not dare to ask his sister, but he did not have any concerns about him. He knew that if he dared to hide any information about any man, this evil man would not let him off. As long as he thought of the other party's terrifying torture methods, he could not help but shiver. Following that, Qing Ju explained the 8 generations of ancestors of the men in detail. Of course, he also mentioned Ji Yun. After all, among the men, this fellow was the only one who had impure thoughts towards his sister. Moreover, he was a black-hearted fellow who liked to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger. If it were not for the fact that he did not dare to say some things, he would definitely tell this demon that Ji Yun and he were very similar in some ways. As for Zhou Kun, who had always wanted to challenge the demon, he only mentioned him briefly. Who asked that guy to not enter their eyes? Only these? The demon said in dissatisfaction after hearing this. Yes. Qing Ju quickly nodded and thought to himself, are these not enough? He had even told her about Zhou Kun's pregnancy. Since you're done, you may leave. Seeing that Qing Ju had nothing else to explain, the demon directly ordered him to leave. Qing Ju's face turned red in anger. Damn it, this was killing the donkey when the grinding was done. Ah! It was wrong. How could he call himself a donkey? Anyway, this guy kicked him away after using him. He was so pitiful. Qing Ju reproached himself for a while, but he still had to leave with tears in his eyes. After Qing Ju left, the demon lay on the bed and recalled Qing Ju's words. Other than Ji Yun, there was actually someone else who wanted to challenge him. This person most likely knew that he had been a little bored recently, so he had deliberately sent himself to his door. In that case, if he didn't make good use of it, wouldn't he be wasting the other party's good intentions? After making up his mind, he decided to start with Zhou Kun first. After all, Zhou Kun was the least important person among the few of them. As for Ji Yun, he would slowly drive him out of Shuai's sight. At this time, Zhou Kun still didn't know that he had been targeted. It wasn't until the next day when Zhou Kun left the tent that he discovered that there seemed to be a few strangers in the camp. He recognized one of the strangers. Ji Min. What are you doing here? After Zhou Kun saw Ji Min, he asked her in a bad mood. Who was the last person he wanted to see in such a situation? Naturally, it was Ji Min. After all, whether it was the grievances between the Ji and Zhou families or his previous feelings for Ji Min, it was enough to make him a big joke in Ji Min's eyes. Being seen by Ji Min in his current state was definitely a humiliation to him. You can be here, why can't I? Ji Min sneered after seeing Zhou Kun. Zhou Kun was at a loss for words. Yeah. Why can't Ji Min be here? How could he say this? Could he say that he regarded Ji Min as an enemy and naturally didn't want the enemy to see him now? However, it wasn't like the other members of the Ji family didn't know about his current situation. Zhou Kun was in a dilemma. Chapter 1891, You're too unsympathetic, too, do I need a reason if I can't? I hate you, do you understand? Seeing that Zhou Kun was being bullied, Meng Bao couldn't hold it in any longer. Zhou Kun, on the other hand, was touched to see that someone was speaking up for him. Do I have a grudge against you? Ji Min glanced at the strong woman who had spoken and asked indifferently. No grudges. Meng Bao answered readily. Then what right do you have to hate me? Ji Min said, somewhat unconvinced. First, she didn't kill this woman's entire family, and second, she didn't steal this woman's man. What right did this woman have to hate her? That's weird. Do you need a reason to hate someone? I just don't like the look of you, so what? Bite me. Meng Bao said shamelessly, but he couldn't help but snort in his heart. She hated all the women who dared to bully her little Kun Kun. You really are an uncultured savage woman. I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. Ji Min was so angry that her words trembled, and her beautiful face turned red with anger. I don't want to talk nonsense with you. You seem to be quite well-mannered, but you're too annoying. Meng Bao said with a look of disdain. However, he was thinking that Leng Ruoxue was more likable compared to this woman. She just didn't know if Leng Ruoxue would be moved to tears after knowing her thoughts. However, at this moment, Leng Ruoxue was preparing to come out of the tent. After hearing her words, she was already laughing in her heart. It seemed that the daughters of those families had to be dealt with by women like Meng Bao, who seemed crude but was actually meticulous. After all, Meng Bao did not look like a shrewd and meticulous woman. Therefore, no one would pick on her even if her words were rough. At the thought of this, Leng Ruoxue pulled the evildoer aside the tent's curtain and walked out. As soon as they stepped out of the tent, they heard a cry of joy, Brother Yi, you're out. Without a doubt, Ji Min was the one who was pleasantly surprised. As for Leng Ruoxue, she had automatically ignored her. When Leng Ruoxue heard this voice, she lifted her beautiful eyes and looked at the evildoer teasingly. Then, the two of them walked towards them, hand in hand. Brother Yi. Just as Ji Min was about to step forward, she seemed to have accidentally seen Leng Ruoxue who was beside the evildoer. She stopped in her tracks awkwardly. At this time, Meng Bao's loud voice rang out again. Leng, who is this pretty boy? Your new love. Why hadn't he seen her before? However, this guy looks much stronger than that Ji Yun, but he's not my cup of tea. Meng Bao sized up the demon and asked nonchalantly like a machine gun. Leng Ruoxue's forehead was filled with black lines after hearing her series of questions, while the demon's face was completely black. As for Ji Yun, his face was alternating between green and white. He's my fiancé, Yechen. Leng Ruoxue sighed softly and said helplessly. Her hand remained calm as she appeased the evildoer. She knew Meng Bao's temper very well. He would say whatever he wanted and would never think about whether others would get angry after hearing what she said. In that guy's heart, there was no such thing as an unintentional speaker but a meaningful listener. Otherwise, Meng Bao would not have called her, the one with the surname Leng, all the time. She couldn't do anything to Meng Bao, but she didn't have to worry about being schemed against when interacting with a straightforward person like him. This was also the main reason why she had always accommodated him. I've long heard of your great name. Hearing this, Meng Bao cupped his hands in a manly manner and sized up the demon again with surprise. In her eyes, this guy was too weak. Could such a weak man give a woman happiness? She was very suspicious. At the thought of this, Meng Bao could not help but pull Leng Ruoxue to the side and asked in a low voice, Leng, this man's body looks so thin and weak. Can he satisfy you? She had no intention of probing into Leng Ruoxue's privacy. She was purely curious. After all, from her perspective, how could Leng Ruoxue have a blissful sex life when she was with such a man? Ah! When Leng Ruoxue heard these words, her cheeks started to heat up and her forehead was covered in cold sweat. She could not help but pray in her heart that these words could not be heard by the evildoer. Otherwise, that fellow would definitely kill her. After all, this was related to a man's dignity. Looking at Leng Ruoxue's troubled expression, Meng Bao completely misunderstood her. Following that, she said with a look of sympathy, Ai. As a woman, I can understand the pain in your heart. Why don't you change to another man? There are plenty of good men in the world. This time, you should find a strong man. As for this kind of embroidered pillow with an empty appearance, you must not think about it again. After all, a woman's sexual happiness is the most important. Meng Bao's words were very sincere and earnest. The reason why she told Leng Ruoxue these things was mainly because Leng Ruoxue had kept her promise and did not snatch Zhou Kun from her. Otherwise, she would not have spoken so much. However, if Leng Ruoxue knew that this was the reason why Meng Bao was concerned about her sexual happiness, she would probably vomit blood from depression. What Meng Bao thought he had said carefully was heard by the demon. He narrowed his eyes and thought to himself, can't I satisfy Shuer? How would you know if you don't try? At this moment, he had crossed out this intrepid and strong-looking girl and put her on his blacklist. He had to make Shuer stay away from this girl in the future. Otherwise, his innocent and cute Shuer would be led astray. Seeing the woman holding Shuer's arm and chattering non-stop, the evildoer immediately released a chill. Instantly, the temperature dropped a lot. As for Ji Min, who had been staying beside the evildoer and trying to attract his attention, she was completely ignored. Not far away. Upon seeing this, Yuchen whispered to Ji Yun, quickly pull your sister back. Don't let her do such a thankless thing. That man is not to be trifled with, and he's not someone she can dream of. As the saying goes, the onlooker sees more clearly. He could clearly see that the devilish man was getting impatient. If he were to lose his temper, he would naturally not vent it on his beloved woman. So who would be the first to bear the brunt? It was naturally self-evident. You think I can control her? Ever since we were young, we've always wanted anything that caught her eye. Ji Yun spoke the truth. He had long seen through his sister's thoughts, but he had no intention of interfering. More importantly, he couldn't interfere in this matter. Moreover, Ji Min was different from him. If Ji Min had her eyes on something, she would definitely get it. As for him, as long as he could see Leng Ruoxue often and cook for her, he was already very satisfied. Ai. She will regret it if she offends this man. Yuchen sighed helplessly. He couldn't understand why some people in this world like to covet other people's things so much. Or was it really that good to snatch it? Whether she regrets it or not is her own choice. She can't blame anyone else. Ji Yun said coldly.